Meeting to order with the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome to the Walsh County Commission regular meeting, June 3rd, 2025. I'm going to begin by asking for additions to the agenda. Danny.
Nothing.
Amy. Christie. Paul.
No.
Ernie. Nope. Wow. Myself, nothing. So, and just to back up, a reminder that we are on Zoom, so if everyone would just let me know if they'd like to speak so we can keep order. We do have a lengthy meeting today, so. The monthly bills have been provided and reviewed. As well as the May 20th, 25 regular session meeting minutes. And along with that, as part of the consent agenda, there's a gaming application for the Sacred Heart of Oakwood Altar Society.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, then we'll begin with employee time. Nobody? Okay. Moving right along. Tanya, we'll have you come up. A couple updates for us this morning.
I do, yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. I know it's listed on the agenda as vacation policy first, but I think I'll start with the personnel updates, if that's okay. The first one is I just want to formally introduce everybody to Christina Potts. Christina was hired as our new auditor treasurer in training. Christy Quabell doesn't get off the hook quite so quickly. But we are very thankful to have you on board, Christina, and thankful that you get this training time because that isn't always the case. And I think it's gonna very much benefit the county that we have that overlap. So that's the biggest one that I have to update. We are still looking to fulfill that payroll and benefits specialist. We did conduct interviews last week. We have not offered the position to anyone yet at this time. Christy and I and a couple of us are probably gonna review that again after today's meeting and kind of decide how to move forward. David, our veteran service officer, was done last Friday. That position is being advertised. I did have a good meeting with David and kind of got the lowdown on his office to make sure I can transition the new person in when we do hire somebody. He left signs on his door and stuff to refer people to the Pembina County DSO level is willing to step in and help. He also transferred a couple of cases that he's actively working on to Rebel. So that office is in transition right now, but I think I had a really good meeting with him. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to slide the new person in. They do have at least one full week of training with Fargo when they come on board. So we have some training mechanisms in place, and they also have a new mentorship program that the VA in Fargo is starting up. So that will pair our new VSOs with really experienced ones across the state. So it's something that hopefully we get that position filled quickly, but it is something that we'll want to talk about probably at budget time, making sure that we have adequate travel funds in that budget line. I think David thought, he looked at it and he's got one of those lovely miscellaneous funds that I know Paul loves so much. And there's quite a bit in that line, so I feel like the dollars are probably there. We probably just need to, clarify what they're gonna be utilized for. So just something to keep in mind when we get to budget season. We are re-advertising for the maintenance assistant position. We had that filled, as you may recall, and he has submitted his resignation. So that position is also being advertised right now. And then the last one is that we did receive a resignation yesterday from one of our dispatchers. Considering that we're in a period of transition right now, Crystal and I spoke and we're not gonna act really quickly to move that, or to fill that, excuse me, unless we hear otherwise. I just know there's a lot of conversations going on right now, so we'll just wait to get further direction from you as a board on should we be getting that advertised or not. So a lot of personnel updates. Any questions on any of those?
I have a question. Did you say that the VSO position was already advertised?
Yeah,
It's out there?
but it is, however, there was maybe, I don't know what happened, it was sent to the paper, but I don't think it got in last week's paper for some reason, I don't know what happened, but I verified yesterday. It is gonna be in the paper, so, but it is on our website and stuff like that too, so,
Okay,
and
and
I'm
that's-
working on a social media ad as well, that will be put out, so.
And that's just open until it's filled?
I
or does
bumped
have a
it to,
deadline?
The 16th, I think,
Okay.
because I had it the 9th, but when it didn't get into the paper, I, bumped it out a week, yeah,
Okay.
so I think I put 16th as the deadline, yes.
You were in on it about county staying longer?
Yes, so we pulled that out right now. We're not gonna fill that highway administrative officer job quite yet. We had a couple applicants. But it sounds like, she's gonna be with us longer than was expected, so we're just gonna hold off on acting quickly on that position right now.
Which is good for
So,
us, but
Mhm.
it didn't, her business didn't go as smoothly as.
yeah, unfortunate for her, but,
Yep, good for us.
but yeah, Jason said why would I want to push an experienced employee out the door? So, we're just gonna hold off on filling that one right now. We had a couple of applications, but not very many, so, I think Jason, I'll verify with him, but between the two of us, we'll make sure we communicate with those applicants that we're just not gonna quite act on filling this one quite yet, so.
Madam Chair, I know there was discussion though on what her role is and how, talking about in training. Do we have a sense of when her role will be done? Does she have timing? Because I do think that it's wise to have someone try to shadow
For
her.
sure, yeah, for sure, we talked about that. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's gonna be this summer at all,
Okay,
so,
I was gonna say, we're probably looking at next summer,
yeah,
just because of the season of her business.
yeah, and I hate to speculate on that piece of it, but
Yep.
I kind of got the impression it's probably not going to be this summer, so. But we will keep in close contact with them because I agree, we want a little bit of
Yeah,
overlap, like we said, that's just so beneficial to us, so. I'll make sure we time that appropriately so that we can get her to train a little bit at least, so.
and then one more question. I know that Paul had asked about the exit interviews, like with David. Will we get copies of those? Or can we?
Yep, when I have it in my folder actually, so I was gonna make copies today and I can just have them out to you, actually, that'd be the easiest thing. A lot of times I would just email them if their department had to email you a copy of it, but I have it in here. The main thing that I really gleaned from that discussion with David and the exit interview was just the type of person we're looking for in that position, which was really helpful because I've filled it a few times over the years. But he was really the first one just to emphasize how much it's kind of like social work or, somebody in the healthcare industry, like that would be a really valuable skill set because of how many times you're digging through healthcare records and having to pull out really sensitive information sometimes, and you almost end up you're referring them to a lot of services and counseling or, maybe they can't pay their bills and you're having to refer them to somebody who can help provide those services. So you're connecting them to a lot of resources a lot of times. So we had a great discussion and yes, I'll share that with you. And then he gave me like a cheat sheet for the first day of the new person. Here's all the, things like the door codes and that kind of thing. So I've got that as well and I'll just hold on to that until the new person comes.
I would rather take a copy on paper. I
Yes,
can't count your emails.
okay, I'll give you all paper copies today. I've got it in my folder, so.
She
Any
tried
other,
sending me an email last week and I didn't get it.
thankfully, he still showed up. He was still there for the interview, but. Because I called him the day before, so I'm like, it's odd, I haven't heard from him yet, and then I panicked, but thankfully, he was able to be there, so. Any other questions on the personnel updates?
Thank you.
The next one then is just the vacation policy, and I did send you all a memo on this, so I won't reiterate everything in the memo, but the short of the story is that previously, our policy has always mirrored the state's vacation policy, not necessarily, by design or desire, it just happened to always mirror it. I guess that was in place long before I came, so maybe they did purposefully mirror the state's policy, I don't know. But one of the changes that came out of the legislative session was that they added two statements essentially to Century Code. One of them being about this new hire leave of 40 hours. And the other one is that they gave departments some leeway in negotiating that accrual rate for hard to fill positions. And those are positions that were specifically identified. And Denny, I agree with your head shake right now. To me, that one's a little bit difficult to administer, that second part of it, in my opinion. I shared it all with you because you're the policymakers, but, however, I do hear frequently especially when we're looking for those, experienced individuals, so the department head positions. The last several that I can think of that we have hired, that has been a question. Is there any way to negotiate that leave policy? And so, it's hard to go backwards, you're thinking you're moving up in your career. So hopefully you're looking for an increase in pay and things like that, but you're going backwards in that leave. So that new hire leave seems like a kind of a nice way to soften that blow a little bit, so. I just wanted to share it with you in case you feel you want to do anything with it, but.
I actually was at the legislative session when they talked about this new hire leave and this discussion they had. It's being used as a recruitment tool, and I guess I think it's a great idea. I mean, if we have that in our pocket for offering to employees a week, it's not a lot, but at least a week in their first year of new hire leave, and if they don't use it, they lose it. It doesn't get paid out, they don't get to carry it forward. The way it's written in the state in century code is you get this 1 week. So that coming onto the job that you aren't sitting there with zero leave. That's a really difficult. It's difficult to leave a job where you maybe have a lot of leave to come to a new job. Bring your experience, come to that new job, and you have zero leave off the get-go. I mean, you start earning your time each month, but it takes a while to build up leave. So I guess when I heard that idea, I thought, what a great idea, great recruitment tool to give them leave right off the bat.
Yeah, and I think too, I like how you said that in here, we all have family or time with families or things that you already have out. And so to think of if that could be a reason someone doesn't move a position, because you know what, this holds me back a little bit, so maybe I'll wait until, you would just hate to see that be the reason. Are we in a position to move? I mean, I would make a motion, we adopt this policy in Walsh County.
We are in a position to move, correct?
Yeah,
And we could go back to June
You
1
could-
if we wanted
set it
to
effective
do it immediately.
the only, I just wanna add one more comment. Christy and I actually visited about it, cause I was telling her that I was doing a memo for this, and. The only, con that I can think of that when her and I were visiting is that sometimes we do have people come on board and they don't last a month, I think. Particularly our dispatch and jail jobs sometimes people don't have a clue what they're getting into and they last, a week or two and say, oh, this isn't for me. But this still has to be approved, right? That's kind of my thought is supervisor has to approve it, and it's more so, I think, for those things where I have a vacation planned in, August, where I was gonna go take 5 days with my family at the lake or something, and so I think it's more so for things like that. In the past, those things have been communicated with us when someone's hired, but they take unpaid leave for that time. As long as we know about it when they're hired, we always approve that leave, but they end up, they take it unpaid, which is unfortunate. And like you said, Amy, we would never want that to prevent them from even coming, so, that's the only other thing I wanted to add.
Did you send an email with that or?
Yeah. I sent it yesterday, Rudy, I promise.
I didn't.
It was on the same chain of emails that all the agenda came on, so I just replied to that same chain.
And Madam Chair, I mean, I think too, like you said, we can't help the parts when we end up with people who don't last that long, but I look at this as a bigger picture thing where we want to attract professionals, people who want to be here longer term, and that we're just meeting them where they are, recognizing that your time is valuable, and we don't want, yes, that to be something that inhibits good people from coming to Walsh County.
And
Would you want to amend your motion to June 1st?
Yes, I am good
Was
for,
that the way it was?
well,
I
I was
kinda
gonna
have it
say,
down.
I'm good.
I'll second that.
Any discussion,
I
Paul?
just have a question, so this is something that is negotiated, it doesn't happen for every employee?
No, it would be available to every employee, but it isn't just like they start, work a week, take a week off, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, it's there for every new employee, so it's not something that's negotiated. The second piece of the policy is where the negotiating comes in, and you would negotiate the accrual rate. That part I'm more uncomfortable with, to be honest, because I just think that's that would be difficult for us to administer. In the state, they have their HRMS department, of course, a really large HR department, has formally identified positions that are quote unquote hard to fill. And they're the only ones that are given the option to negotiate because they're hard to fill. We don't have that sort of structure, right? So I'm not comfortable necessarily. I think it would cause a lot of issues.
Yeah, well, and I would say that, you know, just based on the amount of applicants and stuff that we get for any position, I think you could argue that any position is hard to fill. in this
Yeah,
town.
yeah, that's probably not an unfair statement, yeah. Can I find it?
What?
I'll never read it that quick, just send it to me again so I
I
can.
will, I can even print on a paper copy.
And just so everyone is aware, well, really for your benefit too, so. The first year they would get this week of leave, it's to be used first year, they don't use that for the first year, it's.
It goes away,
It
yeah,
goes away.
it's not like it keeps adding or something.
And for, say, somebody that comes on for a month and leaves, it does not get paid out.
Correct.
So I just wanted to make that clear as well, would not get paid out. It's a recruitment tool for us. So there are some stipulations with it. I know it's going to be a little bit more for the auditor's department to manage, to make sure that after that first year, if they don't use that week of leave, that. It gets taken off of their time sheet. I don't really foresee that being a problem, I think most people will use it. I mean, you know, you have a.
Yeah.
You have a day of baseball tournament with your child, or there's just so many different things, and we want to be family friendly, so Paul.
So this is negotiated with the department.
It's based on approval with the department head,
Okay.
right, yep, so they would still have to request. You know, that time from their supervisor would have to be approved, yeah, so if it's, you know, to me, this is more so for those. Things that are already planned, right, it's, if you wanna take a shopping spree, you know. Every other week, the first couple of months that you're hired, I don't know if that, you know, it still has to be approved, right? So. I don't. Hunting trip, okay, do that, do that.
That's shopping too, just mention.
Yeah.
So for, this would be something then that would be a box in the new hire packet, as
Yeah.
far as to be sure it's addressed
Yeah.
or figured out or
Yep,
line
We're gonna have
item or
to-
whatever.
yeah, we're gonna have to, I'll have to work with the auditor's office to figure out how this will be tracked, because. We just went through the work of incorporating all of our leave accruals into Tyler, and I don't know how this is gonna look with that, we have to work through that, so.
And it would be an automatic for every new hire,
Yep,
they would
it's-
automatically get this week.
it would be available, subject to supervisor approval, be
Right.
taken, you know, so.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll take roll, Amy.
Yes.
Danny,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carried, thank you for bringing that on.
Yep, thank you.
I read it, you don't have to send one,
You've got one now, okay.
I just read it.
Oh, perfect, okay.
And I looked at both emails and trash and nothing from you yesterday.
I'll go look at which one was on, it was on the same email chain that I replied to everyone else's, so I'll see which email is on there, but.
I got it.
Okay, all right, Ed, you're up next with abatement applications, good morning.
Morning. I left a couple of things on everybody's. Spot this morning, so I did everything ahead of time, but I'm gonna kind of rely on Amber to give you the specifics on this abatement application, but. I did include just a picture from Google Earth of the office building, in Park River, so it's SLC Properties. Applied for an abatement for the 2023 and 2024 tax years. There was some extensive water damage due to a roof leak after it was vacated. And the city of Park River approved a motion to reduce the true and full value from, I believe it was 54,850 down to a total of 18,320 for both those years. I'll let Ken give you more specifics, but I would recommend we go along with what the city of Park River did with this property, so. I'd invite Dan to come up or. Do you have anything you want to plan on it?
I did visit property in October of last year, with the property owner. The northwest corner of the building has extensive water damage. However, there are two properties in our city that were in worse condition than this, that have been rehabbed and put back into use. So I do feel that it could be rehabbed, it's just entirely up to him, he would like to sell it. hopefully the next owner is going to rehab it. If not, it's entirely in their hands at that point, what they wish to do with it.
I would move to approve the abatement.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll take roll. Bernie.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Danny.
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carried. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it.
The next item I have is county board equalization. I think we should wait till 9:30 for that, because that's what it was. Put
Right,
on notices and publicized for, so.
sure, we can do that. We'll find another topic. I have a few to pick from this morning. Hmm.
You might have to go all the way down to 11.
Yeah. Cheapers. I don't have good options.
Don't.
Okay, let's go down to unfinished or other business. Does anybody have anything that they can think of? No additions to the agenda today, so.
One thing I might throw out, do we need to have a picture taken before?
For Christie leaves, yes, we never did do that, did we?
Yes, we are gonna check on
Okay.
the next meeting.
Okay.
Yes, we were working on,
So we do one with you, one with her.
right,
Mhm.
yes,
So that.
yeah,
Just get
exactly.
it all done at once.
We were looking at scheduling it and then I put in my notice and it's like, I might as well have rock them once, not twice,
Mhm.
so we'll organize it that way. I guess the other thing is, I suppose I need a motion to get Christina on all the bank accounts. Should we do that? I didn't do an addition, I just thought of that now as we were talking about that.
Yeah, we'll go back and put it as an addition to the agenda.
Okay. So I am looking to get Christina added to, all of the bank accounts, between Choice, First United, LA, and having access to all of that.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take roll. Amy,
Yes.
Danny,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carried.
That was a minute.
Oh, gosh. So we've got about, what, 7 minutes until 9:30? Maybe we should just take a break if we have nothing else that we can address at this time, and we'll resume at 9:30. Call the meeting back to order. All right, morning, Ed, again. Morning for the second time.
So this morning, was our official first time meeting of the County Board of Equalization. I had allowed 20 minutes for any, property owners that may be coming to fill their properties today. I don't see any right now unless I'm mistaken. But I'll try to fill a few minutes here to, in case somebody does come in. Just to give you some background information, refresh your memory. Couple items we've addressed throughout the year already as far as assessments for this year. Our ag lands, if you remember, in January were approved for average value per acre to stay the same. So our overall schedule did not change for our soil valuations. I did have to tweak some of them because some of the productivity index numbers haven't changed by NRCS office. So when you see the final numbers in 2 weeks, I'll have the full report in 2 weeks. You'll see there's gonna be, like a 1% change for some of these soil types, but nothing drastic. The other thing we addressed earlier this year was the gravel pit, the active acres, and the stockpile acres. We were hoping to do an 8% increase on those. And I was able to fit that into the commercial evaluations this year fairly, within tolerance, but we were able to fit that in, so that's stuff we did address before. I did provide you guys a copy with our final sales ratio sheet, this morning. I'll just go over a couple of those numbers quick, just to show you what our office and all the local assessors have to deal with this year, so there's a lot of numbers on that page, obviously, but the two highlighted in yellow are the two main ones that kind of drive our assessments for the year, so for total commercial and vacant lots, our median ratio came in at 100%, which means that our sales, overall, on a median level, were right in line with where our assessments were last year. So we had very little wiggle room on commercial to do increases or decrease or increases anyway this year. That's why I was so nip and tuck with those gravel pit valuations, but we were able to do that. Residential, again, we were at 85.5%. So that means that as a median, our assessments were only at 85.5% of what the sales prices were this past year again. So just to get within tolerance, we had to do about a 7 or 8% increase just to barely be within tolerance countywide. Just the jurisdictions that contract through our offices, we sent out close to 500 notices of increase on residential properties again this year that were up 10% or more. But I believe we got there. I don't have the final number yet, but I'm 99% sure that we're within tolerance. So, as a reminder, the city of Grafton keeps their own sales ratio. Paul, refresh our memory, I think you were right around 85% too.
Yeah, it was like 85.08 or something. It's very similar to this.
So a significant number of notices of increase for the city of
It's like
Grafton.
600. Residential. No, that was everybody. That was all.
I personally had some appeals at the local board of equalizations in April. Tried to work through all of them before this meeting, and I believe we were able to accomplish that with residential owners, so yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Kind of all I have for you guys today. If there's no owners that show up, I guess, unless you guys have any questions for me today, like I said, 2 weeks from now, I'll have the full report with all the numbers for every jurisdiction. And then we submit those to the state by the end of June for go to State Board of Equalization.
Paul,
Just one question, I don't know if you provide, I'm not sure what your full report includes, but I'd kind of like to see a trend of the median ratio for residential over, 5 years.
Sure.
Or something, to kind of see where it's been.
No, last year I think we were around 82, 83%. So it's a little better this year, but still, market is just moving so fast.
I'm seeing the same thing in the city, the ratio has been running 84, 85% for 4 years, I think.
Intolerance is 90.
Between 90 and 100% as well.
Can you try to do a third of them? Is that what it was, a third of them every year?
As far as,
Assessing the.
well, we look, especially when we're like this, we look at every property every year. Like you might be referring to the farm residence exemptions. They do them about 1/5 of them every year. And, I did have 10 individuals that I had some notice of increase to that have been sent farm residence exemption the last 2 winters and haven't gotten them back to me. So I was kind of expecting maybe some of them to appear today, but wasn't the case, so, and they still have time to get back to me and go through the abatement process if need be, but those are always tough, the applicants are still getting used to that process, I think, and but when they get the tax bill, they usually call me, so.
So you're saying it's possible they would be eligible for a farm
Yeah.
residence exemption, they just haven't completed the paperwork?
That's correct, yeah. They haven't either come in and turned in an application or gone through that farm gross income worksheet with me to show that 66% of their household income comes from farming operations.
Oh,
If they're not getting the farm residence exemption, would they qualify for the primary residence?
They would, yes. However, a lot of them, you know, that application window is January through March. They don't get a notice of increase till the end of March, April, May. They're out of luck, but they've had 2 winters. Just get their stuff into me and haven't done it, so.
Down at the bottom, you got grand total, what's that?
That's just the total of all those classifications together. You know, agricultural is skewing that way down because if you remember, our values are not at market value.
I was looking at the median at 51.9.
Yeah, that's skewed greatly by the
By the
agricultural sales.
agriculture, yeah.
You see our agricultural sales our assessments are only at 20% of their sale prices.
Mhm.
And that's just the way the system is set up.
Yep.
so the values are going up on the residences. Which we can't stop, because that's all based on sales, correct?
Yep.
But they'll get the primary residence credit, which will help bring their,
Yes, for those that have applied, yes, and they did see the emails this week come out that the new applicant list is available to download or to get for us, so start reviewing.
okay. Do you see a substantial number that don't apply?
I didn't get involved on that side of it that much, I don't know,
Okay.
do we have any statistics on that, Christie?
I don't, cause I don't know which properties are residential or not, so I don't know how
Okay.
many, you know what I mean? Just cause there's a residential structure on it, doesn't mean that they're living there, so I don't know how our system would ever track that.
Okay,
But I did open up one of the lists and it was, about 1,800,
that had applied.
and they are looking at us to review them now.
Oh, are they? Interesting.
Yeah.
You're not going to be generous now?
That one out the window? I'm glad they're being reviewed, but that's a lot of work for you guys.
I think it's not until October or something like that. I think it's not like it's a quick turnaround, so we'll be able to start going through them, but
Okay,
I did see a couple emails and, yeah, so there's a little bit of work that we'll be doing.
good. Good. Okay, any questions for Ed? So we'll see you in a couple weeks
I
then?
recommend we just adjourn for today and reconvene in 2 weeks for the
Okay.
full report,
Okay, that sounds good.
all right? Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
think that,
Okay, so we are running ahead. Dawn is at 9:50. Good morning, Luke.
morning.
Do you think, would you mind, is anyone else coming to meet?
No, I think you're stuck with me.
Just you solely? Would you
Yep.
mind jumping ahead in the agenda? We're running a little ahead, so.
That works for you?
Okay, come on. So this morning we have with us Luke Lillahoven. And he is going to be talking about the Fair Resiliency Grant.
Is it on, please? Have them all there. Yeah, get one.
Oh, so that you didn't want in there, Danny. Yeah, there's 2 in there.
Oh.
Please go ahead, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, so. It's, I know, maybe a few of the commissioners are new, we're still working on this fair building project, and I think we're up to plan maybe C now.
We know how you feel.
Part of this has come as Christie said, was this fair resilient grant, came up. House Bill 1591. And that got dropped into our laps rather quickly. I think it was May 7th, I believe, we got, the application for the grant. And it was due May 30th. So, we were able to get together and get an application sent in. And if we are awarded that, that could be up to $100,000 for us. Our county would have to match, or not the county, but our Walsh County, the fair would have to match half of that. So to get the 100,000, we'd have to put up 50,000 of it to get the grant. Kind of the downside of that then is the way the grant is written, that money has to be spent or earmarked by July of 27, the end of biennium. So kind of put a rush on to what we were thinking of doing here now again. And so to back up a little bit, I think the front page of this is basically the drawing that we came up with here last fall when we were contemplating building to the west of town, by the Alexander House. Basically, mainly because of financial problems, we kind of have scrapped that plan. Started maybe looking at fixing the existing building, started looking into that again, and thinking we're probably gonna put more money into that than what it's gonna cost to build. So what we are proposing now on the second page there, that highlighted area, so it would be just east of the building that we're at now. We would basically build this highlighted portion of the first page. And what that would do, what that would allow us to do is build this up as we're still able to use the existing building we're in now. That way we hopefully won't lose any fair or hockey season, anything like that. Stay in our existing building, build this new livestock arena on the bottom of the hill. Once that is completed, then it would allow us to then remove that where the hockey arena and static area is now. Utilize that cement underneath the hockey arena for the new static area concession. It wouldn't be an exact drawing of this part, but basically this would be built onto where the existing hockey arena stuff sits now. And then allow us to tie in and still use the Chris Midgarden arena. And trying to utilize as much of the current footprint as we can, keep costs down, but still make it a functional building.
So I just wanna make sure I'm following this correctly. So you would build the new building for the livestock.
Yes.
Down where the parking is now, down below that hill
Yes,
to the east.
yes,
Okay, and then you would tear down the shell of the other building. And you would use that for your static arena. So you would have to build a shell around that. You would just have the cement.
we would just basically utilize the cement.
Cement,
Yes,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And you can do that all for 150,000?
Oh, no.
No, okay, that's what I was wondering.
No,
Oh, I'm like, wow,
No,
I think we
we're-
have to get your architects.
No. no, the 150,000 is what this fair resiliency grant
Granted,
is.
that's your
potentially
starting
allows.
cap.
That's the starting, but what our thoughts are, if we're awarded that, they have to be used by that time, we put that into, say, dirt work or bringing in the utilities, you know,
Mhm.
stuff like that that can be done until we can start our building project.
Okay,
Just trying to be able to, if we get this 100,000, be able to use it, not just throw 100,000 out the window just because we're not ready to build yet, you know. Kind of a rough estimate for that first livestock building. For the shell, we're thinking in the 3 million range. Is what we would have to come up with for that. It's,
Prices are shocking, aren't they?
they are, and. You know, we've looked at ways to whittle it down and get there, and it just doesn't, I mean, that's just what it's gonna take to do this, I'm afraid. No. So I guess what we're looking for today is number one, for permission to go ahead with this plan, to be able to build on the bottom of the hill there. And be able to set this plan in motion and start a fundraising campaign and go about this plan with it. I know we've talked about, we've talked about rebuilding, and that's kind of where we're at now today with it.
I have a question. Do we own all that land then? I need to know, make sure that we own all that land down to the street.
Yes, that's our understanding, I guess.
The county owns it.
The county owns it up to what street that is running on the east there, but
It's an alley, isn't it?
Is it?
Isn't that an alley?
It's a little gravel road. It's like back alley.
Yeah. To our understanding, that's all county property, I guess.
I guess I don't know, so I didn't know if anybody else did.
I assume it is.
I don't know where the split in that line will
Oh,
be. If it is.
Jason has an answer for us.
I know it.
We know it, we own it. Okay, there's our answer.
How far south do we own? The other side of the arena. Of the horse area.
My understanding that.
Amy,
Madam Chair, I looked just to be sure on the language of this bill, because what I read on it was that it was for planning, you know, when you talk about dirt work and utility. Just to be sure that if we're awarded it, it is being used for the purpose of the grant, which I read as basically the planning. Design, you know, that side of things, so I just wanna be sure that it.
And I guess I'm going, so we had a member from the community step up that does a lot of grant writing. Step up to help us with it. And that's the way she read it, was we'd be able to use it for the dirt work and such.
Okay.
I'll be perfectly honest with you, grants are way over my head. So I don't know that, but that's where I'm coming from that, so. If that would be the case, that it is just for planning, because you guys all well know, even if we ended up. Transferring that money to architects and structural engineers and so forth. That 100,000 isn't gonna go very far no matter what we do on it, so, but that's something we can definitely check into to make sure we do utilize it correctly.
$3 million project, you got any clue on funding?
Well, hopefully look for it into more grants and start a fundraising campaign. Go about the community and start asking for donations. One thought that I've had in mind is kind of do it, I mean. Like personally, I couldn't give $10,000 towards this project, okay? But I could give $1,000 a year for 10 years. You start a donation fund like that, you get 10 people to do that, all of a sudden you're at another $100,000, you know? Yes, it's a big undertaking, it's not gonna be easy, but gotta start somewhere and we gotta try, you know?
well,
I'm new here, so I'm just curious how long you've been planning or working on this.
4 years? 4 years? I think this one officially started. Yeah.
I think the initial proposal that came up was 5 million, and that was on that lot west of the extension office.
I would go 7.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, to build this all
Yeah.
west.
yeah,
Yeah, we were And basically the 7 was I think on the low side too, because
Yeah,
we didn't have a good foundation on what it would take for. Out there, we have no utilities, we have no dirt work, parking lot, any of
yeah, a
that.
lot of their work with this one.
You wouldn't build this up, you would build it up?
Nope, it would
It
be
would
built
be-
down, yep. The livestock arena part would be built down on the bottom there.
So then the east side of the current would be that what's kind of falling would come off? I would assume,
Yes, basically, everything standing now, with the exception of the Christmas Garden Arena, would eventually come down.
cause then my other concern would be parking.
So, yep, and that is, but we would open up some to the south, because if we were able to, if we built this where that outside horse arena is now, that, that arena now would fit into the new building. So we could open up some to the south for parking. The other thing is possibly, talk to the school at that point, school's not in session, can we utilize some of the high school parking lots? So. And also on the south, where the static arena is now, if we shifted that back to the cement, you'd open up, I mean, it's not a lot of parking there, but you'd open up some.
So basically what you're here for today, Luke, is just to ask permission to use that area. You're not looking for any funding or anything from the county, correct?
The only thing, the only funding that possibly looking for, so we have a line item now for a building repair fund through the county. And we're wondering with this $50,000 match that we have to have, would we be allowed to use some of that balance towards that 50,000 instead of putting repairs into this building for now? I mean, obviously, there's still gonna be repair, if something has to be done, it would be done, but, say we're sitting, if we made the repairs we're gonna make, and there's X amount of dollars left in that, could that be used towards this 50,000 match? Is we understand from the fair end of it, we understand. We've had this discussion before that the county is in the situation they're in, and we're willing to try and take this on, the fundraising on our own, and come up with that on our own. Yes.
Amy, do we know where the building repair fund is from?
Yeah, so the actuals for 2023, there was $0 spent. 24 adopted was 20,000 and they spent 4,300. So unused for 2024 was 15,656.
15 or
15,000.
15.
Yeah, and then 2025 adopted was 20,000, and so far year to date, they spent, this was probably a week ago, but $3,171. So it looks like the last 2 years, they've budgeted 20,000, spent under, yeah,
so what do they have in their account now that could be used?
that could be used.
Close to 32,000, isn't it?
Well, so, it doesn't roll each,
roll,
it doesn't
okay.
roll each year,
Okay.
but so let me get that.
So basically they have around 17,000.
Yeah, if you want.
So if you have around 17,000, how do you get to 50,000?
Well, we do have some CDs in the fair board that we can cash in to cover that 50,000. If we, or, I mean, ideally, if we can get fundraising in between now and the time this grant is awarded to us, that would go towards it, and then if not, if we had to cash in a CD from the fair to get to the 50,000. Is our plan.
Amy,
Madam Chair, is there an Parker River City or endowment fund anywhere within the city? I mean, just that you're aware of anything that helps with. I just think of some of these projects, like you talk about 10 people to donate 1,000, but then you have to manage that, right? Like you have to have someone who every year says, I need $1,000, I mean, there becomes a piece of. When you're trying to get to 3 million, that's a lot of people to manage.
Yeah.
So I think of some of that for all of these projects, there's a lot of desire, but when you look back, there has to be a little bit of that organization. And the right people to help you achieve that,
Sure.
because otherwise it just sits as a wish, but I just didn't know if the city had anything, not that you're aware of.
Not that I'm aware of, I'm from the wrong end of the county to know some of that stuff,
So
so.
I asking Tom for a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
My other concern is, you know, like your idea, great idea, right, to come up with 10,000, I'll say that I'll contribute 1,000 each year for. I don't know that the bank's gonna let you build a building on that though, you know, saying that people
No.
will.
No, not,
You know, because people
not-
can change their mind real quick and say, oh, I'll give you 1,000 for 10 years, and they give you 1,000 for 2 years, and then they quit.
Right.
And they don't ever come up with the rest of that money. So how do you get the loan from the bank without something backing it? Denny?
I think this is mostly just giving you the option to explore what you can raise and have the ability to plan this. I mean, if you can't come up with the 3 million or whatever it takes to do it, then I assume it's probably out the window.
well, exactly, I
But this is
mean,
just giving you the option to get the ball rolling.
right, I mean, we're not saying we're gonna have equipment out there
Yeah.
breaking dirt tomorrow.
Mhm.
I mean, yes, we may beat our heads against the wall for this for another 2 years and finally say,
Yeah. To
hey,
see where
we
it's going.
can't do it, and
Mhm.
then
Yeah.
the money we've earned maybe either goes into fixing this or put a roof over that South Arena and it becomes a summer achievement day. I mean, that's, I think everybody on the fair board as of now would like to, that's the last case scenario. We'd like to keep our fair how we have it and we'd like to be able to do this. But yes, you're absolutely right. This may never happen.
Yeah.
And we're aware of that. And we know it's not gonna be easy, but
Mhm.
we wanna give
It
it a
just
try.
gives you the ability to plan yeah.
And to have and if we have to go in and start, or when we start asking for donations and such. Well,
Yeah.
same here, if I come to you and come in and say, well, I want money, but I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. But if I can come in and say, here's what we're looking to do, this is our plan. It makes it look like you know what we're doing. You mean,
Okay, Paul,
So the fair is a separate levy, right?
No, this comes out of general fund this year.
But there is a fair levy, isn't there?
That is the county agent,
yeah. so-
yeah, county agent is a left. That was at least.
Okay, so what you'd be looking for then is a motion to allow you to research to put a building on the east end of that lot.
yeah, basically.
Is that
Yeah,
basically what we're
basically
trying to
that.
get to? Okay,
And then for permission on that building fund money, you know, if we could potentially use some of that excess 17,000 towards our down payment on the grant.
okay.
If we get the grant, we still don't know for sure, we might not get the grant,
Mhm.
there's no guarantee we were awarded that, you know.
Where's the balance gonna come from if we use the 17 million, where's the difference?
17,000?
Come out of their CD or their
Yeah.
savings. I think you're sitting at around 70. Somewhere in there.
The fair board budget, or the fair board, so currently in our checking account, we've got just over 40,000. And we have, roughly little over 85,000 in CDs.
Okay, yeah.
Do you have a balance sheet for the fair board?
We do have one, I don't have one on me, but I can get that for you.
That's fine,
But, yeah, I guess I didn't bring that today, but.
Okay, do I have a motion to allow the fair board to research putting the building on the east end of the lot and using their general fund money towards this resiliency grant?
I guess I would make the motion to research, but not use any of the money at this point. If they go and spend that budget down and we have a big expense coming on that building someplace along the line, then we're out of luck. But if you can do it on your dime, I'm all for it, but I don't wanna see them touch that money in case something comes up. We've gotta have that option to be able to repair with what we've got sitting there.
Okay,
Along with that, I don't know if I wanna add to your motion, Jenny, but I think we should make sure they look into make sure we own that land.
Yeah, I would assume that's a
Yep,
given,
that's number one to me.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure we do, but we wanna make sure.
agreed.
I'll second Dave's motion.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'm wondering, so come budget time, if 20,000 for this building repair fund has been what has gone through, so going into 2026. And you're using about 5 per year on average, that's 17, that's. Not going into next year as far as what they will be
Not rolling
budgeting.
over.
So is, as part of the motion, like they're not gonna use it, but yet you are giving them permission to potentially use it? I mean, they have to kind of have that in order to proceed, or are you saying they have to use their
We
CDs?
decided that at budget time. Wouldn't it?
I think that would have to be at the end of the year when we know what the balance would be. Okay, so what you're suggesting, I think, is to transfer that, let's just say that 17,000 was still there at the end of the year, transfer it to a special fund. We've talked about those kinds of things in our budget.
So it's earmarked for, so
It's
it's
earmarked for them. Rather than,
just into the general.
and then maybe lower the budget because you're not spending, although you never know what the month of money.
Yeah, well,
You gotta be careful about that too.
We've had so many surprises with that building, you just don't know.
Yeah.
yeah.
$20,000.
See what that budget time.
But you have to have something planned for this grant, you have to have a match.
They have the match.
We
So that's the plan, it's not out of the 17, it's your CD.
We
Okay.
can cash a CD to come up with a match if we have to, so, I mean, that's not that won't kill our grant chances with not
Okay.
being able to.
I'm
use
just
this money.
clarifying that that's
Yeah.
what we're saying.
That's fine.
Motion.
And, sorry, but to your point, as far as we haven't been using, we are trying to be smart with the repairs we put into that building too. I mean, we could go in right now and do more than that, but we don't wanna be spending a bunch of money in that building that we know is potentially gonna come down in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And
I appreciate that.
yeah, so I mean, that's where some of you look at and you say, we're not spending the money that's earmarked, but we're trying to be responsible on what we spend it on also.
And I'm not talking about this particular.
Right.
But maybe we need to reallocate that money in the budget under something else,
Sure.
so that.
But just to be clear, we own that building, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Yep, it would be a county, the new building you're saying. Or,
The old building,
yep, the old building, yes,
Yeah.
it's county
so,
building.
I mean, we are responsible for certain amount of repairs of it, so. We've always got option.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to allow them to research putting the building out on the east, provided we own the land. We have a motion, did we get a second? I already did, so, okay, any further discussion? Right, hearing none, I'll take roll. Denny,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carried. Thank you, Luke, for
Thank
coming
you very
in,
much.
good luck to you.
Thank you.
You gotta put a lot of effort in this building, and
Well,
it's like anything, it comes down to a few people.
We're trying.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. We'll be in touch.
sounds good, thank you. Don, good morning. We were running a little ahead, so I hope you don't mind, we had Luke jump in, and now we're running a little behind, I feel so sorry about that.
That's how it goes.
Okay.
Sorry to bring enough auditors.
You're warm.
It's warm. It's body heat, but I'm.
Okay, so we have, this morning with us, we have John Mann, she's going to give us the Region for Economic Development strategy update.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Good.
Isn't it great weather out there?
Well, it's nice to be able to see the sun.
I've turned to color for the sun. Well, I appreciate your time this morning and I just came to share a few highlights. The booklet that you have in front of you is our public kind of condensed version of our 5-year economic development strategy. And so I just wanted to share with you a little bit about how our work comes to be and what our accomplishments are. So we are guided under state law to provide regional viewpoints and regional solutions to our issues and opportunities as the Red River Regional Council. So we're one of 8 councils in the state. We're all independent organizations, and ours is the second smallest region with 4 counties. And I've always really loved that because we get to know our people really well. When you have 9 or 12 or 13, it gets a little bit more difficult. So, but every 5 years, we are also designated by the federal government, by the Economic Development Administration under the US Department of Commerce as an economic development district. So we are one of many across the nation that are really looking again at that regional viewpoint and thinking about how to cultivate the economy. So under our federal partnership, we are directed to create what's called a SEDS, as Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, every 5 years. And the SEDS is couched in pretty extraordinary data analysis on the economics and demographics of our region. And we are really fortunate to have a PhD on our staff that helps us work on that data analysis. And what I've really loved about adding Kendra to our team is she really gets to the root of what the issues are for us and helps us dig a little deeper than just the surface level statistics. So, and then we also do a pretty extraordinary public input. During COVID, we held many town hall gatherings and conducted several different kinds of surveys. And so over the last 5 years, we've done public surveys on tourism and destination development, on housing development, on we conducted 130 business interviews one-on-one and created some data findings out of those, and then held public town halls related to all these things. So what you see before you is the goals and strategies that we've developed based on all of that input over the last few years and guiding us into the next, into and through 2028. So again, this document is meant to be really a summary document. So we have goals and strategies around the economy, building a strong, flexible, and fair economy that benefits everyone. Community vitality, creating vibrant, inclusive communities through spaces, leadership, and engagement. Workforce development or housing, creating more housing and better housing for everyone. And then workforce attraction. We found that we have a pretty extraordinary workforce need in our region, as well as opportunities. So on the second page of the document, the bit of an infographic summary of some key data points. This page here. And again, with Kendra's help, we've dug into a few things that we've maybe never dug into before. You'll see right at the top left corner, the needs and opportunities in that gray or light blue box. The potential regional population by 2025 or 45 is the addition of 26,000 new people. And I will share with you that that growth is really targeted for Grand Forks, the city of Grand Forks. But I look at that number and go, there's opportunity for all of us in that number, because I think generally people in our region live and work in about an hour radius. And so, but it won't happen unless we go after it. We have 1,000 plus new jobs in the UAS industry in the next 5 years. Again, this is next to the Grand Forks Air Force Base, and a lot of high income jobs and people coming from all over the country to work at places like Grand Sky. And last week I got to see Danielle Miller from Fordville at a meeting, and just so I think about all of those adjacent and nearby small towns that could benefit from the growth at Grand Sky, and the cool innovations going on there. We completed a housing study for the rural parts of our region last year, and we learned we need 4,800 new homes. 4,800 new homes in the near term. Housing development in our small towns has lagged for decades, and we have pretty extraordinary needs. We also have the need for almost 1,000 new childcare slots. Nelson County has done great work in this for the last decade or so. They have many new childcare centers there and really have been supporting it in so many different ways. Abatement County, 106, Walsh, 137, Grand Forks, 561, and the city of Grand Forks, 64. So just showing where the childcare needs are, and Kendra reminds us that if we have a childcare need, that means we have young families, so that's a good thing. Weekly wages under the hurdle part, weekly wages really have increased in our region since 2019. So I saw particularly in manufacturing, COVID had some impacts there. We're up 23%, but we're still 14% below the state average. So thinking about how do we keep our people here, and how do they make an income and be prosperous in our small towns? So the difference from Region 4 to North Dakota is $8,700 a year. And so that's enough for people to think about moving for. And I used to think cheap housing or affordable housing was one of our carrots, and we no longer have that. So we really have to be mindful about wages and make sure that we're competitive. Since 2015, and this is a statewide trend, but our rural counties have lost 20% of their prime workforce. And those folks have moved to places, 7 largest counties in North Dakota. So yes, North Dakota has been growing, but by and large, there's 43 counties that have not been growing across the state. So I would suggest that's our state's #1 issue right now, because it's gotten to a point where food access has become critical in many places. People can't even buy basic groceries in our rural counties. Families are paying 20 to 30% of their income for childcare services, and 7% is considered affordable. So we're paid less, and we have to pay so much of our income on things like childcare. Rural construction, this is a data point established by NDSU during the housing assessment needs assessment study for the entire state. But rural construction costs are also about 11% higher. And it's been very difficult to attract builders to our small towns, especially when COVID flooded the state with money, and there's a lot of construction elsewhere in the state. The rural building lag, the number of building permits issued in our rural parts of our region, 38 over 5 years since 2018, whereas Grand Forks is at 1,200. So we really have some work to do to address these very complex and dynamic issues. When it comes to disasters, our region is bright red on the disaster map. We have on average 1 federally declared disaster a year in our 4 counties, and that has a pretty direct impact. FEMA estimates that we have a range of $342 per person as far as an annual impact in Grand Forks versus $950 in Pembina County. I'll highlight the foreign-born labor because this is a growing statistic in our region that is pretty significant, but our farm community has grown very dependent on foreign-born labor. Last year, we had nearly 1,000 H-2A visa workers on the farms. And this has been growing about 30% a year. So that's really exacerbated the housing issues in our region, because all the farmers have basically bought up any housing that was left and housing their workers. And it would be really fantastic if we could make them permanent residents. And these are impacts that maybe don't show up in the census data. So when you study the data, this is one that I keep raising up when I'm in statewide meetings to make sure that that's on the radar. We've had 21% increase in new business starts. Grand Forks is dependent on the whole region. 44% of the people that work in Grand Forks every day are from outside the zip code of Grand Forks. And then this one is exciting, people potential. We found this through our housing study last year.
45% of people know someone who would like to move to the region if they could find housing. So people want to be here if we can just accommodate them. And so the next few pages are just what we are calling the action plan. What we tried to do is put these strategies in action and provide ideas and suggestions about how businesses, how cities, how counties, the region and state and federal governments can support this SEDS. So there's a laundry list of things there. I won't go through the laundry list, but 100% of the people say they want more businesses in their town. These again are our collective public surveys. 89% of their people want to see their communities grow. 43% of our people would sell their home if there were available housing for them. We call it move up or move over housing. If we could move them out of their home, they would move on and open that house for others. And then lastly, workforce, 90% of our businesses have growth plans. So there's so many factors that I think are so positive for our region right now. And it's our work every single day to work towards the future. So it's work that's always exciting and passionate because we get to think about the future every day. The last couple of pages are just some quotes that we received through our surveys. And then we did have just a specific one that's for Walsh County. So if you wanted to just seek comments from your county, that is it for you. But just some of the public commentary on what is guiding our work. Any questions on that? Or any discussion points?
I did have a question on page 2. These numbers are all from your region then?
Yes. They are just ours told.
I think the housing that's something I'm familiar with, and we are at a critical point of lack of housing, and we need to do everything we can. When you look at Grand Forks County, about 1,234 homes, and the other rural counties 38, and since 2018, and I understand there's some counties that don't require permits, but even if you double the 38, it's a pathetic number compared to the 1,234. And we need to start incentivizing housing. It's what's holding us back. It's holding everything back. And it's not easy because of costs.
The costs are extreme. I mean, I know several young families that would like to build. And it's $1 million a house. I mean, it's just ridiculous now.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna build them for 230.
No, not out in our area, in the rural area, you cannot build for. Maybe in your big cities where they build a dime a dozen, but you come out here and the costs are astronomical.
Well, and then you couple that with the wages where they are, and it's just hard.
Very hard.
But Madam Chair, I'd really like to thank Paul Paul joined our Community Housing Development Organization as a board member, and so we're really excited to have him on board. And Amy serves as our board president right now as well, and so I feel like we have some great strong engagement from Walsh County. I will turn to this sheet. During the last 5 years, this is just some quick highlights of the last 5 years. So 2020 to 2024 impacts, and we are now an organization, and I'm just for the first time sharing publicly this idea that we are the Red River Development Group, but that is a brand that we're likely going to be adopting later this year. We become a family of 5 different organizations at this point. The partnerships include the Red River Community Housing Development Organization, the Nelson, Pembina, and Walsh County JAs, and the Red River Regional Council. And the heart of the team is the Red River Regional Council, serving as the nucleus for the group and the employer of all the staff. Each organization has an independent board of directors. As I shared earlier, the Regional Council is a state-directed and federally designated organization, and it leads the SEDS development every 5 years. This is our roadmap. As I shared, it includes in-depth data analysis, robust public input, and strategies and action steps. Over the last 5 years, collectively, this group has put together 338 funding applications. We've secured $26 million for our clientele, and there's been over $50 million invested in the region. And primarily, this is all in the rural communities throughout the region. Building towards the future on the backside is a listing of our team. We currently have, we just hired Nelson County last week, so we have 7 full-time and 1 part-time as needed with Dr. Kenda. So I wanted to share just a few highlights over this time period so that you could kind of wrap your head around what exactly do these things mean and how does the work become activated. In the housing category, we are just finishing 16 homes rehabilitated in Nelson County. So we've secured multiple grants over multiple years to support that work. In 2022, I initiated a rural housing task force across the state to try to figure out why there is so much need and no construction going on in rural communities. That actually helped shift state policy so that we can now build houses and multi-family housing in our rural communities. Before that, only 6% of the state's housing incentive fund was going into small towns outside the oil patch. I think it's 6% and then 3% of the total units being built. So over $100 million went into our largest cities, and our small towns were not at the table, but we are now. Revitalize the Red River Choto. This is a nonprofit that we started back in '96. Actually helped accommodate the rehab of 2 historic buildings at the state school. It's been dormant for 15 years, and we hired Lisa Rockwold as our developer. She has 30 years of experience doing housing development work across the state, mostly in our larger cities. Lisa launched the Spark Build program. This is a program where we're trying to show that the market does exist for single family housing and that we can sell it and develop and sell it at market rate. So far, we've built 4 single family homes in Lakota and Larimore. And we are building them in partnership with Tommy Demo. And we have many more houses on the radar for this year. We surveyed every city in the county or in the region to ask who would like to start building houses in their community. So we have 2 under construction now or soon to be in Park River. We're looking at Hoople, Grafton, Minto, and Pembina currently. We secured at the end of last year $1.1 million for housing rehab that will specifically target elderly, handicapped, and veterans. And we completed a housing study last year and held 17 focus groups with our cities. And so really trying to get everybody's engagement and alignment on this. On workforce development, we launched the Real Good initiative. This is the first rural and regional initiative. We hired a housing expert or a marketing expert in Christy Kastrick.
Dawn, I'm just gonna,
Yeah.
we're already 5 minutes over your time frame. You had 15 minutes and we're over time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that's fine. So if you could just kind of, I don't think we're gonna have time to go through every bullet.
That's-
We might have to review on our own, but if you just want to kind of try to wrap up. Just,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, we have a full morning, so.
yeah, I
we
get
Try
it.
to stay on
So
task.
totally get it. I just wanted you to kind of be aware of some of the work that we're going on. The one piece that is new that we're really diving into is rural advocacy, and really did a lot of that work this legislative session and led to multiple new funding initiatives and a legislative rural caucus that is chaired by Senator Beardall and Representative Haggart from Laredo.
Well,
I just wanted to quickly comment that the Choto and the Spark Build is a great program that's going to allow us to, like she said, prove that there is a market. And hopefully over time, help us eliminate the appraisal gap in the small counties, and it's a really exciting opportunity. And we need to embrace that.
Madam Chair, I just want to follow up with that in giving Dawn, I mean, 18 trips to Bismarck. Correct, and so I just had some feedback this morning, actually, that she's made some incredible strides with the new commissioner in Bismarck, that the councils are getting rural communities. And that earning that rural expert reputation at the state level with legislators, commerce, and the governor's office, so. We are in a position we're on the map and the radar, and we just need to be there.
Don, how much did you end up getting from the state for the regional conference for funds?
We got $2 million, which will equate to 125,000 per region, so it's not enough to employ one FTE.
No,
So
it's a start.
it will, it's the first ever state appropriation towards us.
That's a big step.
They created us with bold missions in the 70s with no funding mechanism,
Okay.
so, yeah.
Hard to do anything without funding, isn't it?
Can't be, all our money goes into people power to get these results, so.
Well,
Thank
appreciate
you
all
for
your
your time.
efforts and everything, thank you, and I'm sorry to.
No, that's great, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Let's see. Crystal, you are up next, good morning.
Good morning.
And Crystal has information on corporate credit cards for us this morning.
Yeah, so y'all should have gotten an email from me with a full list of information in regards to corporate credit cards. So one thing that I found being in this position is that if you want to obtain a credit card for your departments, we don't really have a standard for the county. Most departments kind of pick and choose what they want to do, but it's, normally they would go through, say First United Bank or like Brent had the Discover card. And so by doing so, you have to use your own personal social security number, as well as it's based on your credit history to even obtain one. So when trying to obtain one like that, it's not gonna work out for me and my credit history, I have too much on it. So I can't obtain one for my office at this time. So I'm like, there's gotta be other options. And so I've been researching corporate credit cards. And so I've researched with a couple different companies, met with a couple of them. The one I sent you information about has been the JP Morgan Chase One credit card. I brought all this information to the department head meeting to kind of talk about it. I know there isn't really necessarily approval needed for each department to obtain a credit card. However, since this is a different setting as far as corporate, intern position, what does that mean for our department? And I feel like this is a good way to go about it, not knowing necessarily what's happening in my department, the different turnover we've had in the county, specifically because that card can stay with that department. So whatever happens with our department, we separate out and have multiple people, we just add more cards that can be listed as Walsh County Emergency Management. We can have one with my name on it, with the auditor's office coming in, Christina could have one with her name on it, or it could just be auditor's office. If you have any type of turnover, it can stay with the department. With the department heads meeting, there's a lot of good feedback with that they're very interested in doing it. I know one concern with that Christy had brought up was the fact that with that, you'd have one bill date. So whatever we get, whoever would hop on, then it would just be one line of credit that everyone can manage within their own departments online. So, one bill date is great because you're just cutting one check, but we have to make sure that we have all of our P's and Q's in order to make sure what account numbers and what we're charging is sent over there in a timely manner. So with all the other information that I've sent you guys, do you have any questions on this? Any concerns?
I guess I'd like to do a little more research on it first.
I can certainly set up a meeting with, I believe it's Cedric and John that I've been correlating with to, send out to have everybody hop on in regards to ask questions of them and kind of go over a tutorial of what it all entails if you need more.
I don't feel familiar enough with it to make a decision, I guess. Amy.
Crystal and I have talked a little bit about this too, back and forth, and I think one of the things that we need to think about is, like Crystal said, if she's department head and she needs credit card for a department, it's on her personally.
And I agree, that should not be done that way, it's tied to their own personal social security number.
Right, so her credit is affected if the bill is late, if or what, I think this is a county, this is something we need to proceed with across the board, the entire, so that. We're being, I'd be interested too to hear from the auditor's office, but just, I get that there might be some things we have to get in order. But to me, that's just a no-brainer how it should have been done, so.
I would like to see what some other counties are doing, I guess, to get some, let's not reinvent the wheel, there must be other counties, I would assume most counties aren't just tying a credit card to their personal social security number, but that just seems, I'm shocked to hear that that's what's been going on.
Yeah.
I would like some research with other counties, maybe we can reach out and see what other counties are doing. I don't know, Christy, do you have anything?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look into this was brought up at the department head meeting. I have concerns, definitely. With it being, I mean, I think you guys are gonna need a policy in place. There's gonna have to be an admin. It's gonna be one person is gonna have to be in charge of all of this. And it's gonna get dumped on the auditor treasurer's office naturally, and it should. Are we at that point right now to start looking into it? I haven't even had a chance to reach out to all the auditors, to find out, because I don't know what I'm supposed to be concentrating on as with my last month. But I did talk to my, Stutzman County, and they're extremely efficient in how they're running things. And, they have corporate credit cards, but they're not tied to their social security number at all. But they are not set up this way. They're not, another example, it's called a P card. So this is kind of like a P card where every department has it. Well, they don't, you have to have policies in place. Who's going to be issuing it? When I'm reading this email, anyone in the county can get a card. Well, who is anyone? Like as a,
Your department head with an issue, so essentially what they've said is, like, if I set it up, did everything, so then I would be labeled as an administrator. We could have each department head as an administrator on for their departments, and they're in charge of certain cards. So,
but do
like,
we,
I understand definitely, we need a new policy to address all of that stuff, and there's more, detail that need to come along with it in regards to figure out every little thing, so that's why it might be, good to check out with other counties, as well as if more questions in regards to what this one entails. Like I said, I could set up a meeting so we can kind of dive into that a little bit more. But, I mean, just the fact that, I, like right now, like I have a meeting I have to go to in Bismarck, I had to borrow somebody else's credit card so that I can book my hotel room and such, so.
Oh, hang on, don't we have direct pay with our rooms? That's what I always do.
Certain ones, but to be able to book them to begin with, a lot of times you have to have a credit card on file, so either I would need to use my own or borrow somebody else's, so.
So you can use your own to kind of guarantee the room, but then it can be direct.
Yeah,
Right back.
yeah,
to the
so where I'm
So
going.
that's what I'm wondering is, how
Yeah.
often do we use these credit cards? What are they used for?
And it all depends on where you're going for different meetings, so like I ended up staying at a different place that I can, rather than where my meeting's at, so that I can do direct bill, but to be able to hold it, I still needed a card,
Right,
so.
okay.
yeah, I've never taken a company credit card. The auditor's office does not have one. And I always stay at the direct bill and that, so I just feel like this is more than, I totally see the convenience of it all. It puts it as a liability if you guys have staff, if we're letting department heads issue credit cards, county credit cards for their employees to go out. What is the limit? What are you guys comfortable with having on these card limits? Is it $500? Is it $1,000? Who's babysitting that? I feel like each department is going to be in charge of itemizing their expenses, but there still needs to be one administrator. It's no different than getting keys for the building. The keys for the building is less of a liability than actually a line of credit card. And we have one department, I'm a department head, I can't issue those cards, or the key fobs to get in. I just feel like a credit card is, there's a lot of liability that can be placed, and I think that you guys need to have a policy in place and even mirror what other counties are doing with them. I'm not against it, I just don't think we're really at that point right now. I don't know, that's my advice is.
No, I agree, I don't like the idea of department heads having the ability to give out credit cards to their employees on a whim, not on a whim, but. What do we use the credit cards for? That's what I need to know, first of all, is it just for hotel rooms and travel, or what else are we using these credit cards for? And I've got two of you in here.
Supplies from your travel, for hotel rooms, for some places, runnings.
So why would you use it for fuel on travel? Isn't that on per dime? Because I mean, you can't just fill up your tank of gas, right? Unless you're using a county vehicle. Is that what you're saying? County vehicle? Okay, that's different.
We have equipment go out, normally run down to, Best Buy or Sam's Club to get new monitors or something when we need them immediately, not something we necessarily we need to, pre-purchase or something that we could order online and get invoiced. Another thing was, like I brought up to Amy, is that if we have an emergency here and, we have to call Red Cross in or something, but we need to feed our responders, or we need, depending on if we need to, where we're purchasing stuff, sometimes we can go to Hugo's and charge stuff, other times if we're, ordering pizzas or something from somewhere, we put it on the card so that we'd have those items, and then we would pay for it, but we get reimbursed. So certain items, certain emergencies, that type of thing. It's good to have, you might not need it, a policy would definitely need to be in place, because you can, with these types of stuff, you can turn on and say, well, this card only has a $500 limit, and we have it set that you can only use it on this hotel for this traveler, you can only use it for gas. So there's a lot of features of that you can do, but there need to be some training and some policies and everything, and I understand that we can't necessarily, say, yes, we're gonna do this today, but I just wanted to open up the conversation that this is what I'm looking into, and I think it would be something to consider and keep exploring.
Agreed 100%. Jason?
As a department head, most of my staff don't have them. It's Tammy and I, but they're both attached to me. We could put somebody else out there for them, but we could. It's up to a department and to me, who you're gonna put in charge of it. To me, to all my guys, do you want? Absolutely not.
Okay, good, Paul.
I think we all agree that somebody's personal social security number shouldn't be tied to these credit cards.
Right.
We need credit cards. And I agree, some kind of a policy needs to be established, but in most departments, are only gonna need one card. If he's getting by with two, I can't imagine, maybe the sheriff's department, yeah. And so the question is, I think, who works on the policy? I don't know where that goes.
Jason?
And when it comes to billing time, I don't see anything changing for going in the future than it does now. When we get our credit cards, we have to have our invoice, we have everything attached to them. It's not gonna be any different whether it's a corporate card or what we're doing now with US Bank, or First United Bank, is what I'm doing. That cost part on mine is not gonna change. We're gonna have to have the stuff that goes with it, because if you go out, lose it, it's on you. You can't prove that it's actually county expensive. Then you're gonna have to pay it back.
Madam Chair, to just throw more at her, but with Tanya, from a policy perspective, I mean, what HR, would that be?
I already thought about it too, honestly. I have some contacts, so I could also try to gather some information, I know Chrissy, you've not been able to, but I can reach out and see what some others are doing, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel here, cause I feel like there's gotta be stuff out there. I can reach out to some contacts, cause I'm on an HR group's email group similar to the auditor group. I will gather some information and just maybe keep the conversation rolling like that, so.
Is it something that you could maybe work with Christina on now? Cause Christina, I know you're in training, but maybe there'll be some time where Christy has things to work on, and
Yeah.
maybe we could, I don't wanna say leave you out of it, but not put it on your plate, because you have enough on your plate right now, so maybe Christina and Tanya could work together.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for bringing this to our attention.
I'm willing to help with it too, since I've already done a lot of research on it, so it's fine, but.
Until that time.
Yep.
What do we do for you, for your department, when you need a credit card, because
I'll just, ask another department head, so like I've done, so.
is that what you've been doing? Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to.
So-
Sorry, I have had to use the highway departments for HR needs on occasion, that Survey Monkey that we utilize. They will not do direct bill, that had to be required by credit card,
Okay.
so that's always gone through the highway departments. So I think there's been a little bit of,
Yeah.
sharing, and of course Tammy's always totally on top of me, where's that invoice, so
Okay,
they're tracking it,
Yeah. So
personally.
I asked
Perfect.
Alan, cause he's across the hall from me, so I'm like, in case they decide that we're not gonna direct bill me and just charge your card, at least then you're in my building, you can say, here you go, right away, so then I have it.
just wanted to make sure we
Yep.
weren't gonna leave you high and dry if we
Yep.
give you a decision today, so.
No,
Okay,
we got it
good.
covered for other stuff and I'll manage as needed, but
Okay,
just, figuring out moving forward, with everything going on, I'm like, well, this might be a good option, so.
Yep, we do need a better plan in place, agreed, so thank you for bringing it to our attention. How's everything else going?
It's going all right.
Yeah.
Busy one thing after the other, of course, so,
Okay,
yeah.
He's an excellent communicator and has been
Yeah.
very good to keep me informed of things. and-
Yeah, I try to send her updates every once in a while and say what's on ya and if you have any questions, let me know, otherwise I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. So.
perfect, okay, thank you,
Yeah,
Crystal.
so-
Okay, Jason. Sorry, we're 10 minutes behind, but it's not too bad for all we have going on. Okay, good morning, Jason.
Morning.
You have 30 minutes. I'm
Hoping I could be out in once.
gonna get one of those little. With the fan. Yep. No, I promise, I tried to stay on task, but it is going from almost noon today.
It was just for everybody who's not.
I've brought 3 to 30, you were calling me, and whoever else wants me to put in more of it. So,
That's your stone now. Well, you get started, does anybody else want a gravel map?
Yeah, that like,
You guys can run.
I think I've got it,
From this year?
not from this year.
This is the new one,
So what do you mean a gravel map?
where we're grabbing the road.
Oh, where you're going to be graveling?
The initial ones, yes.
Yep.
There's things that I have to go and look at that I don't agree with where our blade operators have said on some things, so.
He thinks same here, we need more.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for right now. I don't see the area that I think we need, you know?
So we'll be taking a look at that and going through more of it, but that's the initials, we'll be updating as we go, so. So far, we've already gotten 6 miles done, we worked with Jim Thompson to get some stuff by Forest River. In that area where we had fabric underneath the road that was showing, so that's all wrapped up. Now we're splitting out, so Jim Thompson will be going to County 4 and hauling on that. And our guys are breaking off and taking care of the dirt areas, so we can get those covered up.
Which one is this? I just needed.
So, it's gonna take a while for it to come back with the frost boils and.
They haven't started to heal yet.
No. No, not really, so, not really clear.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it if you consider anything that that's pretty good.
Will be, I know that there's stuff that needs to be out there on there, on 19, so. We got a couple of spots on 19, we're actually looking at, having to probably do dig outs.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, I live on 19 and I'm not talking about the stretch of where I live. It's beyond west of me, it's so bad.
There's a hill that was shaped, that when it was reshaped, it doesn't have enough below it, so it gets clay on both sides of it. It used to be just one side, but it's becoming more, so we're looking at that spot as being a spot where we're gonna have to dig it out, add rock, put some drain tile, and try and get some of that moisture out. So we can.
Is that what Keyless, is that what you're talking, or you come over to that hill?
That's, yeah, that's owned by Keela's as well. We had 3 sites out there that never dig out.
Well, where was the other one?
Before Keela's, there's a different one.
To the west?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, there's like 3 or 4 spots on that road, but it's really wrong.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 spots there, and unfortunately, we got 4 or 5 miles on County 1, so that are much worse than anything that's on 19. So we got a lot of work ahead of us. Hopefully
There's
this
water coming up in some of those spots.
Yes. Yeah, and even with the drainage, I mean, there's spots where we have water coming out of it on County 1 right through the middle of the road, and we had 75 feet of elevation change. So
What do you do with them?
we're gonna try something new. We're gonna try and put drain tile in.
Drain tile?
We're gonna cut it up, we're gonna cut up some sections and this year and dig them out, put rock in there, put drain tile in it and see if we can keep some of that moisture from getting into the top. But even then, we're gonna have that drain tile scope so we can get our pieces done and go from
No,
there.
I was looking at some of that stuff, jeez.
Are some of these slashes by Forest River that done?
Yeah.
Okay, let's have you begin.
So the first one I wanted to give you that's on the agenda is just a quick update on the Dipple drain bridge that was hit. From talking to Kelly, there's not any information enough evidence to go civilly after the people that hit it. There's just not enough, with the videos or everything that we have, the pictures that we have, there's no way to prove that it was anything. So, it's just the circumstantial things, there's nothing that we can do in that regards. The guys have, if it went to rain yesterday afternoon, would have been, with that hydraulic line break on the equipment, it would have been completely removed yesterday. So they're finishing removing that bridge today, it'll be just sitting there open until we, working with the water board, we can get the new culverts put it installed into it. We're going through hydraulic designs now, so we'll be going through that, those phases. So as of right now, that road is just got a big opening in it.
So how much is that going to cost the county taxpayers?
It's probably gonna be. For, well, the water board has to have their maintenance will be portion of it, and so you have the mills and the, well, not so much the mills, but. The stuff that they have to do to get their funding for theirs, plus us on the 60/40, we're probably, when it's all said and done. We'll be looking. 130 total between the two of us, maybe more. So depending on the culverts themselves are gonna be, and we have to get the fill and all that stuff brought in, so. It's substantial that we have to do. So it's unfortunate.
Because someone damaged our bridge
Mhm.
that did not step up and take care of it.
We were running equipment over something that was posted with a 6 ton and should have never been on it in the first place. So. Okay,
It's just so disappointing.
mile in any direction, they could have gotten around it, not having to worry about it. But it's too much of an inconvenience, so. So the next item I had is, update on the radon
No,
mitigation. And we had a company, called Advanced Radon Pros. They'd actually made 2 site visits, one initial, and they came back with an actual sniffing machine to find sources of the radon. To try and limit the portions that we have to do for containments. We found spikes in all 4 buildings on campus that are significant, and if it's more than 4, as you remember, you're supposed to be taking actions to take care of it. We found spikes ranging on campus anywhere from 230 to 360. So we'll have some spots that we need to address in all those, and we're hoping that with those, we can get everything accounted and take the radon out of them. We'll have to do a retest after we put these initial ones in to see if we can go. He found 2 sites here in the courthouse that have it, so we'll have to do those. The admin building has 1 site, by the staircase. And the Chase building has 1, and the law enforcement has a small one as well. With those all said, it's $24,500 to move forward. They're a month and a half out. But with the cost, I didn't just need to get approval to move forward with this. To me, I think it's a no-brainer to move forward with these and get these things done and see if we can address the situations.
24,500 total.
Total. It's 8,500 for the courthouse, 4,500 for the LEC, 4,500 for the admin building, and 7,000 for Chase.
And what will that get us? Like they'll repair it, they'll
They'll
take care of the
seal,
problem?
they'll seal the sources and put pumps in and take it to the outside. We'll still need to get electricians in for a couple of spots for power to run the radon pumps, but that'll get us seals and going from there. So,
Do you have a estimate or anything to provide to us,
or
or?
they just this, what they gave me in an email, I can leave that to you, it's $24,500. I have one other contractor that I had contacted that never showed up, and another one that was getting back to us. And has never come back forward, so it became too much of a project, I think, for them, what they were looking at. And what they were going to do for this building is completely different, and a much larger scale than, what this company is proposing.
And who is this company?
Radon Pros, Advanced Radon Pros, they're one of the only contractors in the state that has, or the only contractor in the state that I know that has a radon sniffing, they can go and find the exact sources and go around it.
Danny?
Do they guarantee it? For how long?
There's no guarantee, there might be another source that we couldn't find with the sniffers until we can check and get these taken care of, so there may not be, there's no real guarantees. You have another crack comes in from a building that puts it to somebody else, someplace else, where it comes in. One of the things that they talked about was there's a piping conduit that runs between the admin building and the LDC. We sealed that off with some expanded foam and the numbers in the LDC dropped in half underneath the sheriff's department. So just by doing that, the radon that's in there is at the law enforcement center at the back stairs by the generator was over 250 points. So I was falling on the floors, hitting the pipes and transmitting over there. But we still need this, still was a source coming through the sump pump, so we had to seal that and vent that off and get that pumped out. So we could get that taken off. Same thing with the law enforcement center, here, there's a sump pump that we need to take care of. The biggest one is a lot site for here is underneath in the tunnel that is underneath the farmer's road where the sewer goes out of the building. That's a spike of over 250. So he's gotta figure out a way to seal that part of the chamber and take that out. With that, maybe some of the sewer gas smells will go out with it. I don't know, we can hope, so.
Do you have the money in your budget?
Yeah,
Cover
we'll
it.
have to take it through buildings and or capital, like.
Alright,
I would make a motion to approve the radon mitigation at 24,500.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take roll. Paul,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Bernie,
Yes,
Danny,
Yes,
myself, yes, motion carried.
Thank you, I'll let them know and get that moving. The next item I
Can
had,
I just back up? In the future, could we get a copy, a hard
Yeah.
copy? I'd like to have something in front of me to
Sure.
see, you know, from this radon mitigation.
Yep.
With the dollar amount, it's,
yeah.
I'm a visual person, hearing all this is,
Yeah, I can send you an email with it.
yeah,
Or
thank
put it
you.
into it, Yep. The next item I have is township blading. There are rumors out there that we're hearing that I'm getting, that the county isn't getting to the roads because we're too busy doing township blading. We do not blade for townships. We never have, and the only time we do, I guess I shouldn't say never have, we don't blade for them in the summer. In the winter, we'll help them out by weeding it, but we do not blade township. We don't have the time to do their work with it's just not going to happen. In order for us to do that, we have to add, more equipment, more people. Our blades are too big for some of the township roads besides, so I just wanna get that out there, that we're not. One of the contractors has a new motor grader that is different than what they used to run, that is the exact same thing as ours.
I saw that one.
It's,
There's no logo on it, but that was the same thing I heard. What's a counter blade doing out there?
yeah, I heard it too, and I said, I'm not blading.
It's a John Deere blade just like ours.
it's a John Deere 772 blade, just like ours, but it is not ours. We're not blading township roads. We don't have time for it, period. We have 280 miles of road and Bobby has 82 himself. That he covers, so it's, once they get to the end, they start over. So we don't have time for it. We have helped one township one time, cause they gravel, their blade operator wasn't coming through, and we went down and just knocked it out really quick. It was a half a mile, setting down gravel from a few. That we did. And that was only a one-time deal, and I let them know, we'll help you out this time because we are there,
Yeah, I
but we're
remember
not
that.
doing this again. So, but we just putting that out there, it's not something we need. It's not something we will be doing anytime soon. The next item I had is a Zickman drainage permit. It's on County 19. If we look at the map above, it's actually at this intersection right here, a mile and a half to the west of Conway. What they're looking at doing on their permit is talking about taking down to original grade. I spoke with Tim, and it's not so much an original grade, is there are some trees that are growing through here that they'll be looking at removing, which makes sense. And in this corner, there's a bunch of silt fillets filled up, so it's built up about 2 inches above the culvert bottom. So basically, all they'll be doing is taking this from culvert bottom to culvert bottom and cleaning that out to restore the drainage that should have been. With that, the water board and I didn't have any objections to this project, so bringing this forward for your approval.
The only one you have today.
It's the only one I think.
You'll go check it when it's done?
Yeah.
What's your report?
We check.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the Zickman drainage permit? So,
Second, whatever.
Whatever.
Ernie's number one, Denny's number two.
Yeah, I finally got to be number one.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take roll. Denny,
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ernie.
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries.
Last item I have for you from the highway department today is just looking for a signature. It's apparently it's a little piece of paperwork that when we started with Low Pass, we didn't. Nobody caught until now. All it is for all the meetings I go to allow me to be a voting member, so we can make sure we have quorums. I provide to Christie for a signature, but all it is the vote on bullet pass for our permitting system, so. If we're looking at adding different things or not, most of the items they talk about are standard, just issues with roads and bridge type things for permits and future permits, and most of them are. Things that we can opt out of if there's something like, one of the new permits they're looking at adding was just for fracking, obviously we wouldn't have any of those, so we just be able to opt out of that. So it's just looking for permission for our authorization for me to be a voting member for them.
So you would like a motion then to
Yes.
designate that? Okay, do I have a motion to designate Jason as the Load Pass Advisory Committee voting member?
I'll move that.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take roll. Amy,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Ernie.
Yes.
Denny,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carried.
The last thing on my agenda for you all today is Tommy Dam. As of yesterday, the camper is still there, even though, or the trailer is still there, even though they were told that it had to be out by, Saturday. So
My question is why?
I don't have a valid answer from them as to why. They've been told multiple times that he can be out of there, and she's been working, so. I don't have an answer, so.
What's her excuse?
Was that she's working with the insurance company, she's waiting for them to see where they need to take it and those things, was the last time I talked to her, so. Mr. Janet has been told out, it's there, so.
Was still there this morning, and there was a vehicle parked there, so they're still living there. It does look like there's been some stuff that's moved out, but
She's moved most of the stuff out, the vehicle is sitting there, but she's not actually living in it, she's living in Langdon and that pickup's just sitting there, that's her pickup. So.
When I drive by there, I've drove through several times, there's been a light down in there at night. A vehicle sitting there and a light, so. I mean, I don't know if that means somebody's living there, if they just left a light on, but,
No, she just left the light on, so.
so, does she have it scheduled to be moved?
As when I talked to her, Friday, she hadn't had a clear date on having it. She's talking to companies, but nothing was set yet.
do we have to do a formal eviction?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if we're going to have to go that route, because we told her she had till May 31st, and she point blank is ignoring us. So I would say that's the next thing that we'll have to do is check with
Yeah.
the sheriff's office.
There's a lady we could ask.
And nothing like putting you on the spot right away.
What's up?
The trailer is still there, she was given until May 31st to have it out, they're still sitting there,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, I can check into that.
Yeah, we won't make you give us an answer right now, but
Yeah.
could you check and let us know what we can do, because I think we're going to end up having to do something.
Right. Okay, yeah, I can check into whether it be eviction or what would be the. I'll get with Jason and find out the specifics.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Is the doc in?
Yes.
Good.
Docks are in, docks are in, guys redid the beach and had that stuff working, Maurice that's out there, doing a good job of cleaning the bathroom. The other bathroom, we had shower components that were brought in because we had a leak in those components. Ordered 2 different types just to make sure we had it. And apparently there was a third type that we didn't know about, so those parts were supposed to be in today, and then the other small bathroom will be up in Monday, so. With everything that they've done out there, Jason, he's been working with their force, they get these little things taken care of. It'll be a lot easier in the future to blow up the lines with some.
Do we have a plan in place to do with those paddle boats and kayaks and all that other stuff, just lock them up in that shed?
Right now, they're in the garage. There's only one paddle boat that's out, and that's because it was full of water, so I was hoping that would drain out before I put it in there. All the other kayaks and, I believe are inside the garage, on the side of this one, but
How's the security system going?
we're working on it. So, well, Samson's working on their portion, Samson and for our talk, our new process, so.
How many campers over like Memorial Day weekend?
Two.
That's all and one of them is our Camp Holster camper, right? I've been driving through periodically and that's all I've seen is two the whole time.
Most I've seen is 5. The 3 tent campers on Memorial Day weekend is what I saw off of reservations, otherwise it's just the 2 in there. Last weekend there was a couple more. Charlie actually had a noise complaint that night, so I have to add to the rover pass. To let people know that at 10 o'clock they need to be in their campsites and not running around the trailer park. So, but at 10 o'clock it's quiet hours and the day is closed, so.
Maybe even a sign posting that too.
We'll work on new signs, so still working on that and try and get a time where I can meet with somebody that goes me out, so.
Okay.
I'm still working on that portion. Put the QR code on it, so, for the month of May, the income was about $1,100. So, and we're spending 3,300 just going for mowing, so. 2,200 less before new labels.
Well, hopefully we start getting more campers.
Mm-hmm.
When I drove through, I thought the mowing looked very good.
Yep.
It was the nicest I've seen it in a long time.
Yeah, he's done a really good job of the mowing. I was out there actually, when the last time I was out there, the mowing was looking really good, so. So that's some garbage out there. You know, and stuff.
I'd like to see it get out to the public so that it's known that there are no longer dogs out there that anyone has to fear, so people can, the ones that hadn't feared the dogs that reported to me, they can use it again because the dogs are gone. The campgrounds are being kept up, maintained. I'm hoping we get the reputation turned around out there.
And Madam Chair, I think we've talked that, you know, we don't know that we're gonna make income on this park, but if we're losing 2,200 over a year, that's not 100,000 that we're spending and 20 that we're making. So, you know, I'm more comfortable with this route at this point at least, and yeah, we'll hope that we can increase that income a little bit. It's nice to hear it's cleaner.
That's all I have, unless you have any other questions for me.
You made record time.
Tried.
Wow, I'm impressed. You had 15 more minutes to go.
I will give a shout out, when we had our interviews, he made a remark, he says, something to the fact, he said, yeah, what was it, that one person called you, tried to get the internet connection at 11:30 at night? And I went, wow, you know, you don't expect that and stuff, but things happen.
Yeah, I'm getting phone calls at 11 and 10 o'clock at night for mommy, just.
You got your summer staff on, please?
No, I got 2. I got 2 summer staff. So
How many do you need?
3 would be ideal, 2 would be awesome. So that way we get all the bridge guys back to the bridge. We took George back off so he could be back in the gravel truck. George and written gravel, so. But so hopefully soon, the summer staff that we have are recruiting. So hopefully they can find another one of their friends to come work, so. We were able to hire work on Tanya substantially on it to make sure we're following the guidelines. We were able to hire a 17-year-old that has a license. Because he will only be driving, the most he is allowed to drive in a county vehicle would be 2 hours a day. And what the work said that is, that'll be really easy to do, so.
Madam Chair, I did talk to Mike Hansen, and I think, Molly Zaradka, you had communicated or got to her about, you know, that is the option. Like, I know you had talked about safety, but they do have programs that actually came about through job service, like that has been vetted by lawyers, etc. And so this is hiring, not 18-year-olds, you know, the mentality of with supervision, but like he said, it's gone through multiple levels of lawyers. And so from a liability and safety perspective, obviously thinking of, you know, they can't be on their own and there would have to be a supervision, but just from a summer staff perspective, there are options with them from, you know, that 18-year-old requirement kind of similar to what you're talking about, and he just wanted to reinforce that this isn't just something that the school came up with, like this program has been really vetted.
We know, but we also know it's federal laws are just from the state and all those different things, so I'm not willing to lose a bridge project or the federal funding over a summer staff. So,
Yeah, I'm just saying things are in place to protect to a degree when it talks about that, so we're not getting help, we've gotta be creative and open.
Okay. Well, here, I find these,
okay,
so if, does anyone have anything else for Jason? Or those? Okay. Thank you, Jason. Okay, do we want a break? Okay, we'll take a break and we'll resume in Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order and we'll begin with Christie. She has the official election results from the jail.
Yes, so canvassing met and, when canvassing met, there were 96 ballots that were reviewed by the canvass board. Of those 96 ballots, 55 of them counted, 41 did not. The majority of the 41 that did not count were due to postmark dates. So for absentee ballots, they can be, the last date of postmarking is the day before the election. A lot of them were on election day, and many of them were actually like 3, 4, 5 days after. So, this is the most, during the primary in general, I did not get that many, post, dated ones, but, so, of course, we don't open any of those, so I don't know what the result would have been on that. But of the 55, that voted, or that we counted, those were anywhere from the postmark date was the 12th or before. We didn't get it until after, signatures, so the absentee board, the absentee board, when they're opening up, ballots, they're reviewing the signature on the application to the ballot envelope. If they're questionable, that is something that the canvass board then reviews, and then they're deciding on that. The canvass board for a special election was the recorder, the auditor, and then the chair of the commission. So with that, the results did not change. County measure number 1, there was a yes of 1,098, no of 1,011. And county measure number 2, yes was 1,011 and no was 1,095. So we were able to certify that the election was over after canvass board.
Are there any questions for Christie? Okay, well, thank you.
Yes.
I'd just like to say I've never seen so many doctor signatures in my life.
Yeah.
When you're on the canvassing board, those signatures, some of the signatures are.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because the applications go out so early and they're just in a hurry and they don't realize it. So they're just signing it, and then when the actual ballot and they're signing the envelope, I think they put more, they actually use their signature, so there are some that you question, they are the same person, but, or whatnot, so yeah. But I did see, legislation, it sounded like that new bill is going to change absentee postmark dates to the day of the election. So that'll be going forward, it sounds like, if I read what I've researched on that, it does sound like, which to me makes sense
It
on
does make
election day. Because the public doesn't realize that that absentee board is a whole separate, technically like a precinct, or, you know, a polling location, it's kind of a polling location, so when that, on the 12th, that polling is over. So I think that's where a lot of the questions are, so going forward, it should help.
Right, it's just disappointing to see those ballots come and they thought their ballot was going to come,
Yes.
but. So many of them were postmarked May 13th.
Yes.
Of our election and we couldn't use them.
Yes, yes,
I think that'll be a good change.
absolutely, I agree.
Okay, if there's nothing else on the official election results, I think we'll move on to Kelly. And she has an update this morning for us on the Walsh County Ordinance 2025-1, an update. Thanks,
Good
Kelly.
morning. As Ms. Whipple just pointed out, the sales tax, the Walsh County Ordinance 2025-1 did pass by the voters by a majority of vote. I do believe that it's my opinion, I also reached out to bond council as well after reviewing everything that we can proceed and go forward with the sales tax, being that it did pass. The county has 6 months to adopt that ordinance after the election, if it passes. Right now, it does contemplate, I think, a start date of October 1st of 2025. I know the Secretary of State's office, I believe, needs 90 days notice before that. Or the tax department needs 90 days notice before they can start taking that sales tax, so you have to give them 90 days notice. I think we could push back that start date of October 1st, 2025 Obviously, we wouldn't be able to make that earlier because the ordinance calls for October 1st of 2025 as the date, but I believe that we could push that back and be an issue with that.
Okay, so that's, we needed your legal decision on that,
Right.
determination, and we could
Yeah.
actually even consider using the sales tax.
I believe you can consider using the sales tax and,
Okay.
yeah, and passing that ordinance based upon the election results.
Okay.
Right,
Thank
it's an
you
option.
very much, it's an option that's out there.
Yeah.
Okay, appreciate that, Kelly, thank
Of
you.
course, it would be limited to just using it for building a jail and or sheriff's office.
Right, because that's how it was worded in the ordinance, it was just for construction of.
Right.
Anybody have any questions for Kelly?
I do.
Paul?
So when you say we could push the start of that ordinance back, what? Is there? Could we push it back a year? And you maybe just can't answer that right now, and that's fine, but I guess when you say we could push the start date back,
It's 6 months.
Well, I'm just saying, cause you know, I think once you adopt the ordinance, then you, should give notice then to the Secretary of.
oh, you're saying we would adopt the ordinance and then delay the start?
Well, you have to give them 90 days notice. So if you adopt you need to adopt the ordinance before July 1st to give the 90 days notice for the October 1st of 2025.
Okay, I misunderstood.
I'm sorry, I think if it makes sense to me that if you adopt the ordinance, then you would, give notice at that time, the 90 days to, the Secretary of State's office to start collecting that. But I guess I didn't actually research whether you could put that off for a longer period of time. I don't actually know
Sure, I can understand.
the answer to that. It just,
I struggle with adopting this ordinance. Because we, as a commission, pretty much said that both of these things had to pass to move forward. I'm obviously disappointed in the results of the election, we all wanted this to pass, but I see potential here too, I mean, it wasn't all bad. And I don't know where everybody's at, that's what I'd kind of like to know is where the commission's at. For me personally, I struggle with adopting this ordinance and moving forward with something other than a jail. Cause I'd still like to get a jail, and what I see in the results is there's a lot of support for a jail. I think there's clear recognition that people understand we need to do something. And I think that's a result of the meetings and the website and all the work that went into it. I think where the public differs is on the price tag, that's my opinion. And I think if we could do something with a little less price tag, I think we'd have potential to get it passed, and that's what I'd like to see. And that kind of starts back at square one. But I don't know how you could start this sales tax not knowing if you're gonna build a jail. That's my thought.
Then,
I see it as the public saying, you can do it with the sales tax, do it. And we've got a lot of us looking at a proposal right now of what we can do. If we don't, what is Grafton's plan B? This is our plan B, is to proceed with what we can with the sales tax money and whatever else we can put together to do something. If we don't,
I don't know how you build a jail with a sales tax, I guess I don't know what kind of plan you could come up with to build a jail for the sales tax.
well, they're working on it right now.
Sure, and
But, you know, I just don't wanna see a motion coming up here today and putting this whole thing off right now.
I'm not ready to make any motions,
No,
I just.
but
wanted to have
I'm just saying that we're working on a plan. And that's our plan B, is to do what we can with the sales tax. And I think we have to have a plan B, we have to proceed with what we can do with what the voters, in my opinion, clearly said. This is the path we want to see go, and I agree that the price tag was too high, and I get that. But if we can put together something and use the sales tax at this point. I think we have to.
I think where we differ a little bit is I'm all for a plan B, that's what I want is a plan B. But I think that plan B has to start right here, not at a committee, because this is the group that's gonna make the decision, and I'm concerned that this went from an election to a committee and this group never even talked about it, and I think this group needs to be involved in where do we go from here, and that's a big concern. I want us giving direction to the committee and not vice versa, that's what I think, and that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation.
I will agree with, I found out that this was going to look at using the sales tax from an interview and the paper. I didn't have a clue that this was now the next plan, but I was labeled as supporting that, whether or not I support it or not. So I don't like the mentality that, I have people calling me and messaging me about, well, why are you using the sales tax? I disagree. I think the public stated, how many times was it out there? It's not legal, but it is political. When you talk about, we had every meeting that said both of these measures have to pass to proceed. So I don't agree that we just take what we can get and move forward. I think we do have to go back and look at options. Look at, we have a building on this property. Could that become the sheriff's office? We own it. Look at coming down in the amount of beds that we have. I just had a great conversation with our sheriff, Grand Forks County Sheriff, in regards to contracting with them. It's a different setup in Grand Forks now with what's changed there. I want to look at things from a perspective of what are we doing to be on the same page instead of just forcing something through, because I feel if we push this sales tax thing through and still need a vote, then if that's voted down, then I want to be on the same page as our voters versus us just forcing our way through. That's how I feel.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say, I think this has been somewhat taken out of context. We had all agreed that we would hire Samuel's Group to guide us through this process. We are not done with Samuel's Group. We found out that the vote came through. I think we were all surprised, right? We did say we wanted, a yes vote or a no vote. We didn't get that from the people. The people voted and they split the vote. We can't control that. But now we have options on the table with that. We do have the option to use the sales tax. We were waiting for a legal determination on that before we brought it before the commission. I'm not willing to bring something before the commission to say, hey, I think we can use the sales tax. So we needed this first. We needed the step from Kelly first that we could use the sales tax. We still were working with the Samuels Group. They haven't left us high and dry. We paid to work with them. I don't think we should ignore their services. So yes, there's going to be a conference call with the Samuels Group. It's not costing us additional money, but they are willing to look at, is there any viable options with the sales tax? If there is, great. If there isn't, then there isn't. But I think we need to continue to work with the Samuels Group, who we hired, who we paid for, who we put our confidence in and ask them to guide us through this process. I guess I'm not sure why we would just say we're done at this point. Like, we just want to look at viable options. I guess that is my thought, that we work with the Samuels Group, see what viable options there are. Maybe we can utilize the sales tax as the people voted us to utilize it to put towards the construction of a new jail or sheriff's office, or one or the other. I'm not sure. I really don't know at this point. They'd have to tell us what's a viable option. So that's all I'm requesting that we do, is that we just look at our options.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to continuing on with the Samuels Group and coming up with alternatives, and that's what I want, is an alternative. And if we can have 2 or 3 alternatives, that's even better, because then we can sit here as a group and decide, rather than just say, this is our plan, here it is, adopt it. I like the idea of more alternatives than less, but in my mind, the committee needs direction from the commission. I said that once, I'll say it again, and not the other way around. And I think the committee needs to know where we're at. I, for one, am not interested in adopting this ordinance, this sales tax ordinance, to build the sheriff's office. That's how I feel, because that is not what we voted for. We voted for a 46-bed jail. And I think to use it for a jail is one thing, to use it for a sheriff's office and a transfer center is something totally different. I see those as very different, and I wouldn't be in favor of that. And I'm curious how others feel, and I just want people to know how I feel, because I agree with Amy, there's a lot of work with a lot of information going around, and they want to do this and they want to do that, and that's not where I'm at, and I just want everybody to know that.
I fully agree. I just don't want our options limited at this point.
I agree with that too.
Okay.
I know, I said a couple of weeks ago, when we were looking at the sales tax deal, and I said, it might be legal if you say it is. And then I thought morally on my side, I'm thinking, and I was flip-flopping. But the last week and a half, 2 weeks, I've had a lot of questions about it. What are you gonna do? Where are you gonna go? And I was totally shocked at the amount of people that caused that pass, said, well, why don't you use the money and, scale down and do whatever? And I said, well, I don't know, I can't give you that answer, we haven't talked about it, but my point is I always listen to the people, and I had more people, and maybe they were ones that voted for it, I don't know. But they were more concerned of us moving forward and doing something as the county than just scrapping it and saying, no, we're not gonna move forward. So that's where I'm still at, I don't know, whichever, I won't make my final decision until we got some plans and maybe scale down and, all our options, like you guys said, but just listening to the people, I was totally surprised. Just like I was totally surprised when you look at that vote, you had almost half and half each way.
Just about exactly.
Exactly.
I know.
And I said it before, people want somehow somebody else to pay for it. Well, that's where the sales tax is. Somebody else is gonna help us pay for it. And there's people telling me to use that to do something to move forward. And like I said, I don't know I didn't have an answer for him. I said, I don't know. I said, I'm sorry, I can't give you an answer. And I said, I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of discussion moving forward. Out of whatever our options are we gonna make something smaller, or are we gonna do something here? And I said, I personally told them, I said, I don't wanna move forward until we really have our P's and Q's and all the answers. Cause it's a big deal, and say what you want, half of them, the ones that voted yes for the sales tax probably aren't gonna be mad at us. But the ones that did voted no for the sales tax are gonna be mad at us that we're moving forward. But when I look at it over in the majority, if we're doing something for the safety of Walsh County, I'll take a little bit of heat. I'll take a little bit of heat to protect my state's attorney, my judge, and our cops. That I can have. And that's what I'm looking for overall, the whole picture. Is the safety and moving forward for Walsh County and the safety of our people. And our citizens, just. So, and again, like I said, there's a lot of discussion to move forward,
Our problem did not go away. We still need a jail. We still need, would have we liked it all? Yes, we would have liked the plan that we put out there. We're not going to get that. The people spoke, we're not going to get that. But I do feel that they spoke and they did give us the opportunity to look at using the sales tax. Can we come up with a viable option? I don't know at this point. But would the commission give the jail committee the authority to work with the Samuels group to see if we can present a viable option? I think that's all we really want to do at this point.
And I'm all for continuing to work with them for options, but like I said, I think the more options we put on the table, the better we are gonna be as a group to determine how we think we should move forward.
And I agree. I mean, I'm not at all for saying we stop. I fully am on, and not saying that I don't value the safety and that it's just a piece of, I wish this conversation would have had the day after the vote instead of, like I said,
But I'm sorry, but we couldn't have that conversation because we did not know for sure if we could use the sales tax or not. I mean, I wasn't willing to say, even go down that road until we knew for sure if we could use it.
But it was still out there. It somehow
out
it's still
there.
got
It's
there, and
always
we were
out there.
labeled, all of us being on that page and weren't aware. I wasn't aware of that, even being an option. That's what I'm saying, is that as the five of us, we all should be aware of all of the same things when it comes to that.
Well, I got hit with news media requests at 8 AM the next morning. I wasn't aware of an option either. I called Kelly quick, neither one of us were sure. I mean, she needed time to research it. So that's basically what was said. That was what was put out to the media. Now, if it's twisted in another way, I can't stop that. But up till this point, until today, when we got the legal determination, we just knew the option was out there, but we didn't know if it could really be used or not.
Right, I'm just
So-
saying, I didn't even know the option was out there. That's what I'm saying. From a perspective of moving forward, I fully agree. I had several people, even before this vote happened, that asked me, why is there one option? So I also agree that the more we can provide when it comes to big, you know, small, whatever, the different options for us to make it the best decision on what we can proceed with and move forward. I've been very happy with what the Samuels Group has done and am in favor of continuing the work for that.
Okay, good, then,
So are you both in favor of using the sales tax? You both kind of stated that you aren't.
I'm not, no. Unless it's for a jail.
Well, right, yeah,
Right.
I mean, that's the only thing we can use it for is for
Well,
jail.
when I say a jail, I mean a jail, not a sheriff's
Right,
office.
yeah.
So,
That's
Not
the way.
not the sheriff's office
LAC.
holding facility to transport.
so if it was a, let's say a 20.
And I agree with that, I'm much more comfortable because it does say jail and sheriff's office, and so I'm much more comfortable that it would need to be use that sales tax money for a jail and sheriff's office.
and can I just add to that? And that's
And that's,
That's my bad. I got hit with a question from one of the media. You know, like, they all want to know, what can you do with the sales tax? It passed. What can you do with it? Well, wow. I wasn't really prepared. I'm gonna be honest. I wasn't prepared. And the one question I said, well, maybe we can still use it. And, you know, we did need the holding facility. I said, maybe we could use it towards that. So that's on me. I misspoke. I wasn't thinking of the exact wording when you've got the lights in your face and the camera saying, you know, it was for construction of a jail or jail and sheriff's office, so.
I guess to be more specific, what I wouldn't be in favor of is the $12 million. Sheriff's office and transfer station that they used in their scenario, I would not be in favor of using the sales tax to build that.
The holding facility.
Yes.
And that's what you're saying, it
Yes.
cannot be used for, so that has been clarified, we would not be able to use it for.
So in other words, if we cut it back and went to a 20-bed jail, you'd be comfortable with that.
I think I could,
And I'm just using it as an example.
I would be willing to entertain
Yeah,
that,
okay,
yeah.
yeah, and that's fair. And then, you know, I always think about what do we do with the old building over there and stuff, and I said, well, we got one over here we own. Maybe that's in the future too, so, and I'm just speaking out loud. But, yeah, you know, I still don't like that we might have to transfer prisoners, but it's still better for the county if we have a jail.
Logistically, I don't know how that can be done.
Yeah, I don't even.
That's one of the,
Yeah,
you know, I agree.
Yeah,
My thoughts are, if we don't come up with a viable option, we would not implement the sales tax.
Yeah.
It has to be a viable, it has to be a doable option that takes care of some of our issues, right? That satisfies our need for a jail, so that we don't have to continue to transport. So could we just give the Samuels Group some time to work with the architect? See if we can come up with a plan? Maybe we can, maybe we can't, but we need some time to do that.
makes sense.
Yep.
Plus everyone's on board with that, right? Okay, Tanya,
May I just ask a clarification question, Kelly? You said that the ordinance right now talks about an October 1st date. But if we were gonna choose to do the ordinance, the 6-month window would have to be 6 months from the date of the election.
that's correct.
Okay, so a decision whether to use it or not has to happen within 6 months of the election date.
That's correct.
Okay.
They would need to move forward and adopt the final ordinance. yes.
I just wanted to.
So would we have to do that in July, like you said, 3 months ahead to do it?
Well, no, you have 6 months from the election date to adopt it.
Okay,
And then you have to give 90 days notice
Okay.
to the tax departments, I believe, so that they can, so. So if you don't adopt it right away, more than likely, they're not gonna be able to start collecting it on that October 1st, 2025 date, so it'll get pushed back to whenever. That they're able, the tax department's able to take that in, but you do have 6 months from the date of the election to make that determination.
But we have till November 13th. Am I 6 months?
Yes, yes.
So we have till November 13th, and then we have to go back 3 months from there.
Forward.
No,
Forward.
forward at least 3 months from there, and I don't know if they do it quarterly or how that's being done, I
Okay.
just. Know that they need at least 90 days.
Okay, so we've got a little wiggle room there, we've got a little time there. I'm gonna go on to the next topic now, though, this June 9th meeting that we were going to have for the mills, for the capital project, or capital funds.
Yes, that, I believe, because we noticed it, if the protest period ends. In 60 days, which I believe is Sunday. So, you should go forward with that meeting, there's no reason not to, it just authorizes you to use that capital. Funds levy, should you choose to, you don't have to.
Okay,
But it does, I talked with bond counsel yesterday on that a little bit, and it does authorize you, and there's no reason why. You would wanna go through that again, so you might as well just, you
Keep
can
that
move
there.
forward with that, and then you don't have to use it, but,
okay,
I'm a little confused.
okay?
that's the 10 mills.
That's,
Oh,
that's the
10 mills
10
in the
mills of that.
capital project fund that we were going to use for the jail,
okay,
yeah.
all right.
I was a little confused too, I had to
Yeah,
get some
that's
clarification this morning.
Completely different from the
From the election.
election and the ordinances, something completely different, yes.
Okay, so we will continue to meet June 9th, 9 AM. Okay, all right, any other discussion? We good?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kelly, appreciate it.
Thank you, thanks, Doug.
I guess I'd just like to say. This was new territory for all of us. You know, and I think we're really doing the best we can. And relying heavily on Samuel's group for their guidance as to what to do. Because they have been very good to work with, so.
And Madam Chair, I just wanna say I can't imagine having the lights and the media requests, so I honestly, what you had to do and can't, you know. Apologize if you will for just, it's not an easy job to be able to or have to. Give those requests and know what to say or let them kind of guide you a little bit and not when you don't, kind of taken off guard, if you will, so.
Right, I tried to be very careful, but I did slip up on that with the holding facility and I should have.
KO radios would call me every week for a week, and I told him, I said, you used to be a friend of me. He's their news director there, and I said, when I find out something, I said, I will let you know, I said, otherwise. Watch this, because I told him, I said, Tuesday, and he does keep up on it, he used to be here in Grafton, so he cares. He was a friend of Lauren's, and I said, Don, I said, when we find out something, you'll either know, and if you don't see it there, call me or call her. So,
He can call you.
well, he's one that I could tell him something and he's not gonna take it out of context, and I keep telling him that, don't throw me under the bus. But yeah, it's, everybody, it seems like it's not just our county, everybody else is sort of, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, I wanna find a solution that
Yeah.
is best for the county and for the employees. So, okay, moving on from there, we have Amy up next with a dispatch emergency read board update.
So since Brent's resignation, obviously that's left us 3 departments. Thankfully Crystal has stepped in for interim with dispatch emergency management, but Tanya and I, we just keep working on this. So I wanted to give an update on where we are with everything. It's Denny, myself, Chris, Tanya and Ron that have the actual committee work. So we have met once that way. And then there's just been more work behind the scenes. So to start with the weed department, Tanya has done some initial legwork with it. There's potential, she's talked to Grand Forks County and we're kind of, her and I have both become educated on what this position does, the need. I've had conversations with Ed from the board perspective, and so we do feel like we're on the right track in ideally separating that from emergency management dispatch side of things. And so that's kind of where we are with that. There isn't anything set in stone or to bring to the commission yet, but the conversation has started and we're having some possible options. The dispatch side of things, so Tanya and I did meet with the dispatchers, we went to the department for transparency. Just to let them know, you know, that we are looking at all options. I see him here, but I have worked with Darren, who is our state radio representative, or is represented for state radio. Working to have him set up some meetings with the sheriff's office, those that Ron has directed to answer some questions. State radio is used by 26 counties in North Dakota. I have done some digging on budgets. And essentially, this is preliminary research as far as what we have found that I've worked with Darren and the auditor's office. Our local dispatch budget is $500,000 a year. Fees, salaries, all of that. At this point, from what we found, state radio to move to state radio or consider that would be approximately $50,000
A year.
a year. So, there's been lots of comments, unfortunate comments from not knowing both sides via Facebook and all the things. I mean, my next steps and goals, I think, is we are going to have another meeting, between Ron, Chris, Tanya, Denny and myself to kind of keep moving forward with the information gathering and the determination. I also know that we've had some comments with fire, ambulance and that type of thing. My goal is really to get out there, get the concerns, brought forward, have them addressed by Darren, if, you know, when we can, to be able to make sure that we do make an educated decision. I don't think any of us take any of this lightly when we think of people and being in roles and being in positions. I also want to set up a meeting with the city of Grafton leaders to have discussions, because that was another breach and kind of what's happened in these departments. The emergency management, Darren has said that if we did move to state radio, we would need still a 911 director. That potentially could be a negotiation with the city, you know, from that perspective. And that would emergency management would be something, 911 director, that I ideally at this point kind of see maybe housed within the sheriff's office or in that facility or area, if you will. Change is never fun. There's nothing great about talking about doing something different and going away from what we've always done. But when you look at a potential $450,000 change in budget, I just feel we cannot not look at it as a possible option for our county.
Well, at 450 is somewhat misleading, because we're still gonna have to have a coordinator. Local coordinator.
Yeah.
I don't know what that comes, Richie, what's your thoughts on this? Is it,
I think it's a terrible idea. That's my honest opinion. And the factors, they know us fairly well, like I said in that email that I sent you guys that. It's not just getting sent to somebody's place, it's knowing the roads, knowing, like we talked about earlier, if one of your guys' family members gets injured, right? And state radio sends out that 911 address, well, they don't know that 2 mile stretch road out in Sauter Township is partly underwater. Or we gonna have rigs get stuck, different things like that. I mean, if she called me up and said, hey, you need to go to Hankey Cemetery and go that direction, I would know exactly that landmark and whatnot. State radio is gonna generate a 911 address, which can get confusing. I don't know if you guys want me to talk about it, but
I also want to comment on, technology is only advancing, so I am not in favor of saying we don't have all local people. Rather, we tend to have less local when it comes to employees that don't know Olson's Bridge, that don't know these places you're talking. And we have had deputies and people who have talked very highly of what state radio is doing. I mean, when you have 26 counties that are using it, you can't say that it's not something that you even should consider or think about. And I know the comment too on people should be able to have someone to talk to. And you can clarify this, but my feeling is I think an admin tree in this county is highly needed when it comes to phone calls. If I call in at 10 PM and I'm an 85-year-old elderly woman that has an emergency, 100% that should be documented as a 911 call. That's what we should be taking it as. But if I'm calling in because I want to talk to a department, to Kelly Cole, I should be directed to her office to leave a message to be contacted the next day during business hours.
This is one thing with Walsh County, it's not necessarily a 911 call. Sometimes it's to the dispatch line, sometimes it's our personal cell phone saying, hey, this is what's going on. You know, it's not just 911. And the bad thing, like you said, that one that I sent you, I don't want us to be that county where somebody calls in needing help and we say, sorry, I'll state radio. The dispatch. I sent that in an email. That happened in Pembina County last week.
I think this conversation needs to happen later on. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here. I think we need to know more about, because anybody here, who here has watched that video, of Darren Anderson?
I couldn't get it open. You know,
Okay, so most of us have seen it. I just think we need to hear. Have a presentation to the commission from state radio. And I'd like for them to also have a presentation from state radio.
Have you had a call with Darren yet?
No, I tried to set it up for this week.
Okay, cause that, for you and Lisa, I mean, I've been very open with Darren to say, they have valid and concerns I want you to discuss, you know, and be able to answer, and it is my, like, that would be a great goal, right? Because we do need to decide, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't want anyone held up. If we're gonna trial or think about this, we just have to, we have an opening in dispatch right now, and it's not ideal. But if Darren can come on via Zoom or something, and that could be a meeting that we could then invite. If there's fire, if there's local responder, you know, that want to, instead of it being a Facebook, let's throw it all out there and be trying to respond. I'd rather it be a place where it's, you know, it might be a raucous meeting, but here you go, like, just, let's have them here to be able to answer questions. So that, agreed, we can decide like what we're gonna do.
Ernie, you have a question?
I guess going back to his deal about location or whatever. My old farm, if I gave them the address, my GPS address, everybody was a mile north of my place. And when I adjust, I cover a lot of counties, and you'd be surprised how many farmers tell me, don't go by that address,
Yeah.
you gotta go a mile north.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know the rest of all this, what's happening, and that scares me. Cause when the locals tell you that, and I can't find it out on my GPS on my vehicle or whatever, then the system isn't working. And I don't know if that's part of it or ever, and I guess I hope that's in part of the discussion, to see how many of them happen locally to the other counties that are accepting this one. Cause I see it every year, I get 4 or 5 of them that don't go there, you gotta go a mile north of that street address and go there to get to my place.
Yeah.
So,
In the last 2 weeks, I've had two instances where they've ended up at my feedlot instead of my home.
yeah, and then 2 years ago, that little car was running around trying to update all the GPS and everything, cause I was, well, maybe 3, I was still at the farm. And it didn't improve anything. And I'm going, well, what did you do? You know, it was all related to the 911 addresses. So that's what scared me, that's.
Crystal?
I just one thing to talk about, a little bit of a difference that you will definitely see from a response and that will affect them. Is our CAT. So our configurated dispatch system that we utilize, we have an entire history of everyone who's called in, different, you know, phone numbers. I've had, parents and additional people, including myself, who have special needs children who have come in. Our system can house all that information with, you know, garage codes to get in. We have key holder information in there for businesses, all that information that state radio doesn't have. So if they call in and it's a hang up call, they'll say, well, this is the phone number and this is a GPS coordinates. I can put that phone number into our CAD and say, oh, that comes back to Richie Sherlock. And so this is different addresses he's associated with, and compare it to our map to be able to provide that information. Whereas they don't have that entire system. You know, we've had this CAD since 2011. So we have a lot of details as well as additional information, so like I said, like I've had some parents and myself, like. My children have autism, so I have it in there, so I have special information in case something were to happen and somebody says, oh, this is Briar Chemis. He's in there, you can say, this is his parent, this is his, emergency contacts, this is his likes and dislikes, he's autistic. Stay away from this, all that information that we're able to house, that we have been trying, within our system to be able to get that information out there to advise, we have such a huge disability community here, as well as, elderly community, that we can house that information to, so that we can see it and share it with our first responders when we send them out. Day Radio doesn't have that, and there isn't really a way that I know that they can integrate it, because they use a completely different system. So will we still have our CAD if we go to there? Yeah, absolutely, because we have different modules that, jail and civil and everything uses. But then they're gonna have two computers in their things to be able to get that information from one thing and then try to search it up. And then provide that information to, EMS or fire, whereas we can provide that now to them, to the community. So.
And then warnings for violent offenders, people that we've had to fight with before, so that new guys that we hire
Yeah.
get notified, yeah, this guy's been violent in the past.
So there's a lot of things that we already have implemented.
So it's kind of like a personal history
Correct,
type deal,
yes.
okay,
It takes a long time to build that data.
Yeah,
excuse me.
So then whatever new stuff comes in is not gonna be inputted into that system for anybody else who comes in. So we'll be losing that or having to double check dual systems, for whoever goes forward with that.
I agree, there's lots of pros and cons, I think, to both sides, and I think we need to look at the whole picture before we make any decision. And I think having a Zoom call with Darren would be beneficial.
Yeah, and so I think if the commission is okay with it, I would, even the city of Grafton leaders, if that we set that Zoom meeting, and anyone that's interested, we just kill the, two birds with one stone, if you will, to be able to have that be, we put it out there. Maybe it's not next meeting, the meeting after, we give it a month as far as just to organize that. I have to obviously figure out with Darren what he can make work, but then it would be an option so that those who want to be present, have questions, etc., would be aware.
And would this be open to the public for public comments as well? That's.
would they be informed? I see where you're going, but.
Attend the meeting.
Yeah, it's a commission meeting, so, it's.
That's always open to the
Right.
public, yeah, I was gonna say, I don't like the idea of just.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be a hearing for public comment or anything.
Just information meeting,
That's what I-
informational meeting, and I would say let's not just limit it to inviting the Grafton City Council, let's invite all city councils. If we're gonna reach out and
By
invite
the
a county,
county, yeah, absolutely.
I would just say it's a public,
Yeah.
right? I would just do it as a public informational meeting and leave it at that, anyone that wants to attend can.
I like that CAD system. 5 years from now, when I get lost, you'll be remember to take me home.
And that's great information, because
Yeah.
without you guys telling us this, there's no way I know
Yeah,
that.
I never knew we had something
So
like that.
I need to,
Yeah,
I wanna know everything, before
yeah,
we make a
Cass
decision.
County, well, how many years ago started, like, the safety vest, that Project Life, like. They started this whole thing and we tried to implement it in our area a while ago, a couple of years ago, but. They weren't able to help kind of get it off the ground, but in researching that, we found that our CAD was capable of putting in all that information, so. We have so much abilities to do with some of the, programs that we already have that are underutilized, because we just don't have the time or the resources to be able to look into it, so. I've been trying to look into that more and met with people me and Brent have both met with some, people in regards, at the life skills. I had spoken at, an all meeting that was held in town for, disabled, individuals. And had gotten some people to come in to be able to input some of that information, so, I know we try to share it and we, allow, our dispatchers and our officers to be able to share that
Mhm.
information too.
I assume we're paying for the system,
Yeah, we do. pay
An
for
annual
system,
payment?
Annual payment, so, and it was something that.
how much do you know, top of your head roughly?
We split the cost, I wanna say annually, because we pay a certain portion out of our funds, sheriff's office does for the jail and the civil portion, and then city of Grafton, I believe, pays about half of it. So I wanna say annual maintenance is anywhere between, and it goes up annually a couple percent, so I wanna say last year was maybe around like 23,000 in total. And I'd have to double
Okay.
check to
No,
see how
that's
much
fine. I was
we paid,
just
but I
curious.
just wanna say our portion was around like 10, 11.
Okay,
So, other counties also utilize this too. We house our server and we also have the training server. So when we get new people with the sheriff's office or the jail or dispatch, then they can practice on the training server, so it doesn't affect our numbers. Pembina County utilizes our server. They pay for their own portion, but our server is housed here, so they kind of VPN or however they get into it.
so they're still using CAD?
Yeah,
CAD
so
system,
Pembina
even though they
County-
went to state radio.
Pembina County is still using that CAD, Botno County is on it, for our server, and right now Cavalier / Towner is getting on it as well, so.
So it's a good system.
And then all their stuff that they input for their people, we can see on their contact cards, so it
As long as they
expands,
share.
because we,
Okay,
because we, like. You know, a lot of people in Pembina County have issues in Walsh County, so, you know,
So if you absorb the cost, they're not necessarily using the state CAD system then. They're using their own, they're using,
Both or double inputting stuff.
right, which is what Darren has basically said would, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily use your CAD, you would have the potential to use state. Their CAD that comes with, going with them,
But you lose all the data that you've got since.
not if you maintain yours,
Yeah,
is
but
what you're talking about.
It's a necessity of having two CAD systems.
Well, that's what you're saying.
It's also gonna be different for our first responders, for as far as our fire and our EMS, because right now they don't have access to our CAD. But I have set up recurring reports so that every time we get something for them, you know, it can be quarterly or annually, so they can see how many fire runs they've had, how many ambulances they've run. We have reports that it just automatically generate through our CAD to their emails, so they won't have that access anymore. Unless somebody is entering that information for them, they're gonna have to get all that information from state radio. Or whatever system they're using.
That would be a good question for Darren, if that information be imported into the state CAD.
Good questions moving forward.
great. Yep, so I think we should get an informational meeting set up with Darren and go from there. But appreciate hearing both sides, because there are definitely gonna be pros and cons. On the other hand, I think we need to take a look at it just to see what our options are. Again, let's just keep our options on the table and see what's out there. Okay, anything else, Amy?
No, I do not believe so.
Good, okay. I think we made it to the end of our agenda by noon, 11:59.
Did well.
Okay, anything else? Hearing nothing, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.